A look of surprise crossed Fang Chen's eyes. Wasn't the sect master of the giant sect surnamed Kong? What kinship did Qin Wangchuan share with the Kong Manor? Curious, he followed Yu Yingchen into the back garden of the residence. He spotted a number of elderly men and women gathered in small groups, chatting idly. The moment they caught sight of Qin Wangchuan approaching, they all stepped forward in unison, preparing to bow in greeting. Fortunately, Yu Yingchen spoke first, saying, "Wangchuan has come to seek refuge with her relatives here. Treat her well from now on." Relatives, everyone present was a grand elder of a major sect, every last one of them shrewd beyond measure. After a brief moment of stunned confusion, their gazes flicked between Fang Chen and Qin Wangchuan, and they immediately grasped the greater part of the situation. Accordingly, they all nodded in agreement to play along. A few, who were on close terms with Qin Wangchuan, even took the opportunity to tease her by claiming higher familial seniority. "Young man, rest easy. I am Wangchuan's great-aunt, and I will dote on her well. I am her second maternal grandmother. I am her third maternal grandmother." A vein throbbed violently on Qin Wangchuan's forehead, and her volatile temper was on the verge of spiraling out of control. Fang Chen breathed a sigh of relief. It turned out these truly were Chuanchuan's relatives. He cupped his fists in salute and said, "Honored elders and grand dowagers, I was ordered by Elder Wen of the Azure Cloud Sect to escort her here to seek refuge with you. I have now delivered her safely, fulfilling my mission. I hope you will treat her kindly in the days to come." Afterwards, he crouched down so his line of sight was level with Qin Wangchuan's, tidied her slightly disheveled hair, and brushed the dust off her shoulders. He said shamefacedly, "I am not yet married, so I have no experience caring for children. I made you suffer along the way. Now that you are at your relative's home, remember to be obedient and don't talk back to others recklessly, all right." From this moment on, Chuanchuan would be living under another's roof, just as Fang Chen had been in his youth. The difference was that Fang Chen still had his father back then, while Chuanchuan was truly, utterly alone. At such a young age, it was all but guaranteed that she would be bullied and treated harshly in the future. Thinking of the bitter hardships he had endured over the years, Fang Chen could not bear to abandon her like this, yet keeping her with him permanently was simply not feasible. After a moment of thought, Fang Chen resolutely pulled a jade case from his bosom, inside which rested the demon core of a silver, winged thunderbird. He turned and handed it to Yu Yingchen, saying, "Honored elder, this is the demon core of a silver, winged thunderbird. If sold to a martial artist, it will fetch a considerable sum." The group of grand elders looked over, and all were stunned. Good heavens, was this not the very silver-winged thunderbird demon core that Zuwanchong had been searching for all this time? This young lad actually possessed one. Yu Yingchen was also utterly flabbergasted. Just who was this young man? He had initially assumed this was some silly game of Qin Wangchuan's, that she had found some handsome, fair-faced scholar somewhere, but what kind of ordinary scholar could get their hands on such a rare treasure? "You are giving this to me." Yu Yingchen stared at the jade case held out before him, his confusion deepening. Fang Chen said, "This demon core is compensation for your manor's care of her. For the sake of this demon core, I hope you will treat her well in the future. Do not beat her, do not scold her, and most certainly do not let her go hungry or cold. If you truly do not wish to raise her any longer, send a message back to the Azure Cloud Sect, and I will come immediately to take her back." Perhaps because he had once been caught in the rain himself, he wanted to hold an umbrella for others. Fang Chen wished to care for Chuanchuan as much as he possibly could. Listening to his sincere, heartfelt instructions, the group of grand elders who had originally come to watch the spectacle could not help but be moved. For the sake of a child he did not even know, Fang Chen had gone to such lengths to care for her. It had been a long time since they had seen a young disciple with such a pure, untainted heart. Yu Yingchen felt the jade case in his hand grow heavy, and he cast a reproachful glance at Qin Wangchuan. "How could you have the heart to tease such a kind young man?" The rest of the grand elders also shot Qin Wangchuan varying degrees of disapproving looks. Hadn't she taken this joke too far? In this day and age, where could you find such a good-natured young man? You still teased him and hurt his feelings. How could you live with your conscience? Qin Wangchuan was so furious she nearly spat blood. Who was teasing him? This lady was the one protecting him the entire way. "For heaven's sake," she said irritably, "why are you being so sentimental? Hurry up and leave. Do you have to make me lose face completely?" Fang Chen patted her head and said, "Very well. Your elder brother shall take his leave first. We shall meet again if fate so decrees it." What did he call her? Chuanchuan. Every single grand elder present was thunderstruck. Someone actually dared to address the little ferocious dragon of Hehuan Sect as Chuanchuan. The absurd contrast was too much even for these lofty grand elders to maintain their composure. Some muffled snickers behind their hands, while others' lips twitched violently as they fought desperately to hold back their laughter. Qin Wangchuan's delicate little face flushed bright red in an instant, her toes digging furiously into the ground as she wished for nothing more than a crack to split the earth open and swallow her whole. What was social death? This was the very definition of it. Seeing them laugh on and on, Qin Wangchuan flew into a huff. If they were all going to die of embarrassment, they would do it together. She would not be the only one losing face here. Fang Chen, don't you dare leave yet. Qin Wangchuan snapped to halt him, then demanded, tell that white-haired old woman what you did during the Supreme Sect's Grand Disciples Tournament. Fang Chen wore a look of utter confusion. What were all these old men and women cackling about? And why did Qin Wangchuan want him to recount these matters from the cultivation world? Are you going to speak or not? Qin Wangchuan demanded, stamping her foot petulantly. Fang Chen asked puzzledly, what is there to tell? I cut a swat through every elite disciple of the Supreme Sect, which infuriated the Supreme Sect Master so much he reported me to the Heavenly Secrets Pavilion. They wouldn't understand any of this, would they? The white-haired old matriarch, who had been grinning from ear to ear, was none other than a grand elder of the Supreme Sect. The moment those words reached her ears, her face turned to stone. The remaining grand elders gaped at her in shock. Such an incident had actually happened. Wait, this boy looked like nothing more than a new disciple, didn't he? How could he possibly cut down all the elite disciples of the Supreme Sect's current generation? And the sect master was so furious he filed a report. That sounded far too absurd to be true. Qin Wangchuan sneered. Why don't you keep laughing? What's the matter? Did you suddenly stop finding things funny? The Supreme Sect Grand Elder's face flushed bright red with embarrassment, and she stammered awkwardly, those are all bygones. There is no need to dredge them up again. This incident was counted as a grave humiliation for the Supreme Sect. They had assumed no one knew of it, but who would have guessed that the young man Qin Wangchuan brought with her was precisely that Fang Chen, and he had spilled the entire story in public. She could barely find a place to hide her old, shamed face. But Qin Wangchuan had no intention of letting the matter rest. And another thing, Fang Chen, play a tune for that old man holding the erhu. Fang Chen was taken aback. That would not be appropriate, would it? That is a Heavenly Sound Sect cultivation method. It can cause severe harm to people. The old man holding the who was the Grand Elder of the Heavenly Sound Sect. He had not only referred to himself as Qin Wangchuan's third grandma earlier, but had also laughed louder than anyone else present. Hearing that, he chortled and said, young man, you know the Heavenly Sound Sect's cultivation methods. How come this old man has never heard of such a thing? The Heavenly Sound Sect never passes its cultivation methods to outsiders, and even if it did, few could ever hope to fully comprehend them. He did not believe for a second that Fang Chen understood the sect's techniques. Fang Chen rubbed his nose, slowly putting the pieces together. These old men and women were not ordinary mortals. They were clearly also part of the cultivation world. That made things far simpler. Ordinary people could not recognize the power of his martial skills, but how could fellow cultivators fail to see it? In the future, when they treated Chuanchuan, they would undoubtedly think twice about the consequences of treating her unfairly. Very well, I shall play a tune then. Fang Chen resolutely unfastened the wooden case on his back, slapped it open, and drew out an ivory, white gyukin. The moment he laid eyes on the gyukin, the smile on the Heavenly Sound Sect Grand Elder's face froze solid. The natal magical artifact of the Heavenly Sound Sect's Great Elder, he exclaimed in shock. How did it come to be in your possession? You have a keen eye that makes this all the better. Fang Chen stroked the strings gently and said, Fu Keijun, the chief disciple of the Heavenly Sound Sect, framed me and left me for dead. This gyukin was given to me by Elder Ming Yulian as compensation for Fu Keijun's crimes. Oh, and Fu Keijun was defeated by my hand. Since he was going to showcase his strength, he might as well lay all these battle achievements that he usually did not bother mentioning out in the open for all to see. That their own chief disciple had lost to this unknown newcomer, his face was twisted with utter disbelief. Fang Chen said, now, I shall play a tune of the Heavenly Sound Sect's cultivation method. This technique is publicly known as * formation breaker tune *, a musical score that the entire Heavenly Sound Sect has failed to comprehend for generations. They refused to believe it was unreadable, so they tasked me with deciphering it. The group of Grand Elders nodded secretly. The Heavenly Sound Sect did indeed possess a highly mysterious Earth-grade musical score called * formation breaker tune *. It was said to be flawed, and no one had ever succeeded in comprehending it fully. Even Fu Keijun, hailed as a once-in a century musical path genius, had barely gleaned a sliver of insight from it. The Heavenly Sound Sect Grand Elder chuckled and said, "Is that so? Play quickly. Let this old man hear what you have managed to comprehend from it." After generations of failed attempts, this asterisk formation breaker tune asterisk had long been deemed flawed and unfit for cultivation. Currently, it was only given to interested disciples to test their musical aptitude, essentially a useless triviality. He did not believe for a moment that an outsider like Fang Chen could glean anything of value from it. Who would have expected that the moment Fang Chen laid both hands on the Guqin, he unleashed a flurry of sharp, ear-splitting notes, like a ferocious dragon surging from the depths of the sea, letting loose a world-shaking roar beside one's ear. Terrifying sound waves formed from the notes, shattered all near, by flowers and plants to fine powder, and split the ground open into gaping fissures that billowed white smoke. The entire area descended into chaos in the blink of an eye. The Heavenly Sound Sect Grand Elder's face paled drastically, and he cried out in alarm, "An earth, grade sound path cultivation method. You truly comprehended this from asterisk formation breaker tune asterisk?" Fang Chen pressed down on the strings to silence the Guqin, putting it away as he spoke. "That is correct. It is called the asterisk tiger roar dragon chant cultivation method asterisk. The Heavenly Sound Sect sat on asterisk formation breaker tune asterisk for centuries, almost letting this hidden technique be lost to the world forever." A group of Supreme Elders looked at each other in bewilderment. Hasn't the Tianyin sect always claimed that one requires talent in the Tao of Sound to join their ranks? How is it that none of their younger generation can grasp the technique, worse even than an outsider? I rather admire the Tianyin sect. Truth be told, they do not even possess that earth-grade sound Tao cultivation method themselves, yet they gifted it to others free of charge. How selfless, how noble. In an instant, the faces of the Tianyin sect's Supreme Elders flushed bright red. Damned it all, this was the most humiliating fiasco they had ever suffered. Qin Wangchuan was so amused that his mouth could barely stay shut. "Second grandmother, do you think everyone in the Tianyin sect is a bunch of fools? They can't even compare to the little disciples of the Qin sect." The Tianyin sect Supreme Elder wished he could burrow into a crack in the ground, coughing repeatedly in awkwardness. "I know nothing of this matter." "Nothing at all." Another one had suffered a social death. Qin Wangchuan struck while the iron was hot, turning his gaze toward the Supreme Elder of the Hehuan Sect. The latter puffed out his chest and spoke confidently. "What of the Hehuan Sect? We have no shortage of embarrassing incidents. We do not mind adding one more. The Hehuan Sect cultivates the heart. Trivial matters of honor and shame do not stir our calm in the slightest." Fang Chen recalled, "I did not have any particularly special experiences with the Hehuan Sect, save for their sect leader who was truly appalling. She failed to force me into joining the Hehuan Sect, then actually issued a wanted order for me. That was certainly an eye-opener." Several Supreme Elders looked at the Hehuan Sect's Supreme Elder with stunned expressions. Could that be true? Issuing a wanted order just because you could not get someone to join, even though the Hehuan Sect abides by the principle of following one's heart's desire, this is far too beneath their dignity. It is rather unseemly, to say the least. The Hehuan Sect Supreme Elder smiled awkwardly. "Our sect leader is a bit unhinged at times, but she would never do such a thing. Otherwise, how could a little disciple like Fang Chen escape from her grasp? Even though he claimed not to care about external honor or shame, this matter was still more than a little embarrassing." Fang Chen grew annoyed the moment he heard this. "She very much intended to capture me, even used heavenly mountain silk. Fortunately, I have cultivated a movement technique, so I managed to escape." When Heavenly Mountain Silk was mentioned, most of the people present believed the story 7 or 8 parts true, but no one could believe he had escaped right under the Hehuan Sect leader's nose. That was until Fang Chen activated his movement technique, and in the span of a single breath, zipped around the entire back garden like a bolt of lightning. Only then did the group of Supreme Elders exclaim in shock, "What an exquisite movement technique! No wonder even the Hehuan Sect leader could not catch up." The Hehuan Sect leader must be furious. No. She failed to force someone to join, could not catch up to him, and the wanted order amounted to nothing. She must be seething with rage. "Warn the younger disciples, if they go to the Hehuan Sect, be careful. Either cultivate an exquisite movement technique first before going, or do not draw attention to themselves, lest they be detained there." The Hehuan Sect Supreme Elder wore an awkward smile. "That is an exaggeration, a gross exaggeration. It is nowhere near as serious as you make it sound." His back, which had been ramrod straight just moments ago, now slouched limply, and he could not lift his head, no matter how hard he tried. Qin Wangchuan snickered out loud. So Fang Chen had an interesting story at the Hehuan Sect as well. Another one suffered social death. Her gaze shifted, landing on the Supreme Elder of the 10,000 Swords Sect. The latter spoke guiltily. Fang Chen has never been to our 10,000 Swords Sect, right? He told himself that the 10,000 Swords Sect conducts itself with utmost propriety, so there should be no embarrassing incidents to speak of, but the previous lessons left him more than little nervous. I have been there. Fang Chen's single sentence made his heart lurch. Then nothing happened while you were there, right? Fang Chen smiled faintly. The seniors of the 10,000 Swords Sect are all very kind. They treated me quite well. Hearing that, the Supreme Elder heaved a long sigh of relief. Thank the heavens, there was no embarrassing incident to be had here. Who knew the very next moment he would freeze on the spot as if he had seen a ghost? Elder Zuwanchong even taught me the sword control technique. With a sharp whoosh, as Fang Chen activated his sword heart, the Hehuan sword on his back unsheathed itself abruptly, transforming into a rainbow that pierced through the sky. Sword control technique. Was it not said that the sword control technique was lost to the 10,000 Swords Sect, that there was no one left to carry on the legacy? How did this boy learn it? The eyes of every Supreme Elder nearly popped out of their sockets in shock. The 10,000 Swords Sect's Supreme Elder felt his vision go dark. No, something is wrong here. How could our sect's supreme legacy art be learned by an outsider, and so easily at that? If word gets out, people will think everyone in the 10,000 Swords Sect is a bunch of useless hacks. Qin Wangchuan was incredibly smug. Go on, laugh again. Weren't you laughing quite happily just a moment ago? The 10,000 Swords Sect Supreme Elder laughed, a bitter, helpless laugh. Where in the world did this peerless kendo prodigy come from? The six-path sword control technique had just made the entire 10,000 Swords Sect's disciples lose all face. Qin Wangchuan laughed loudly, then shifted her gaze once more, landing on Yu Yingchen, the Supreme Elder of the Thousand Refinement Sect. He trembled violently in that instant. He waved his hands hurriedly, guilt written all over his face. I didn't laugh. I didn't laugh at all just now. No one could blame him for being nervous. He recognized the Hehuan sword that Fang Chen had used to perform the sword control technique. It was forged by the young sect leader of their Thousand Refinements sect. Only the heavens knew if the young sect leader had humiliated himself in front of Fang Chen before. Fang Chen sheathed his sword, only recalling the matter then, and spoke. Oh right, this sword is named Hehuan. It was made by the young master. Little brother, say no more. Yu Yingchen quickly cut him off. I will take good care of Wangchuan, rest assured. You have absolutely nothing to worry about. The rest of the Supreme Elders, who had not yet been named, also wore faces full of guilt. Enough, truly enough. Do not speak any further. If you have other matters to attend to, you may go now. We will take good care of Wangchuan. Fang Chen had shown off several of his skills in succession, and felt it was enough to intimidate this group of old men and women. He immediately sheathed his sword and said, Very well, I will leave Chuanchuan in your care. Farewell. With that, he left with his hands behind his back, leaving behind a group of Supreme Elders who stared at each other in stunned silence. Qin Wangchuan tucked her small hands into her sleeves, a faint smirk playing on her lips as she spoke. Did you all not love gawking at my embarrassment? Have you had your fill of the spectacle now? The Grand Elder of the Taisheng sect fumed with shame and rage, roaring, You old hag, you have no sense of martial honor. The Grand Elder of the Tianyan sect was also overwhelmed with shame, sputtering, You are truly vile. Where did you dig up this little freak to humiliate a bunch of old fogies like us? The Grand Elder of the Hehuan sect wiped his face in exasperation, muttering in bewilderment, What in the world is wrong with this little brat? He is proficient in all manner of divine abilities. Even I was caught off guard by him. Yu Yingchen was also stunned, exclaiming, Indeed, little tyrant dragon, is this Fang Chen truly a disciple raised by your Qin sect? He is nothing short of a humanoid monster. I cannot think of a single cultivator of the same realm who could last a single exchange against him. Qin Wangchuan threw her head back and laughed heartily. Fang Chen had just earned her an enormous amount of face. You can all seethe with envy. Qin Wangchuan preened smugly, Give him time, and sooner or later he will have all 8 of your sects utterly subdued. When that day comes, my Qin sect will unify the 9 sects and dominate the entire world. TCH, the group of old men rolled their eyes in unison. Yu Yingchen snapped irritably, Unify the 9 sects, give the demon clan a little more time, and all 9 of our sects will be trampled into dust first. He pulled a shriveled womb out of his sleeve and tossed it onto the table. A terrifyingly dense demonic Kai lingered on its surface. Even a Foundation Establishment realm cultivator could faint on the spot if they so much as caught a whiff of its fumes. Qin Wangchuan's expression turned grave at once, and she unconsciously pulled her hands out of her sleeves. Her brow was furrowed tightly as she said, What an intensely thick demonic Kai. This womb once nurtured a being of truly terrifying bloodline. Could this be the offspring of that tiger demon that was on the verge of reaching soul formation realm all those years ago? Yu Yingchen nodded gravely. Precisely. That soul formation realm tiger demon did indeed fall, but hidden within its demon emperor secret realm was this very womb, still nurturing its descendant. The rest of the Grand Elders immediately wore solemn expressions. No wonder Yu Yingchen had summoned the Grand Elders of all sects here. This was an enormous disaster. That supreme being, who once unified the entire demon realm, had struck fear into the hearts of all 9 sects back then. No one had any idea what realm its offspring, nurtured for so many years, would have reached when it emerges into the world. Yu Yingchen, however, wore a strange look on his face, but I have one odd doubt. The way this Demon Emperor Supreme's offspring left its confinement is rather unusual. He flipped the womb over, and the crowd only then noticed that the other side of the shriveled organ had a fist-sized hole, its edges ragged with bite marks, as if something had chewed its way out of the womb. Qin Wangchuan froze for a moment, then blurted out, "Are you thinking what I'm thinking, that the Demon Emperor's offspring was eaten by some creature as a snack?" The group of Grand Elders were stunned speechless. Even Yu Yingchen was caught off guard by her wild, unconstrained imagination. Strangely enough, the longer they stared at the womb, the more plausible that theory seemed. He wore a bizarre expression as he spoke, but what creature could possibly be that powerful? Do not be fooled by how shriveled this womb is. It is still covered in the demonic Kai barrier laid down by the Demon Realm Supreme. What existence could ignore that barrier entirely, burrow inside, and devour the Demon Emperor's offspring? None of the crowd could answer for a moment, until the Grand Elder of the Spirit Beast Sect hesitated for a moment before speaking. Everyone, to tell you the truth, according to the intelligence our Spirit Beast Sect has gathered, the demon clan's large-scale invasion this time is to hunt down a mysterious little spirit beast. Could that be the very creature that ate the Demon Emperor Supreme's offspring? No wonder the current Demon Emperor has launched a massive beast tide. There is this reason behind it all. Qin Wangchuan mused thoughtfully. The demon clan values this little spirit beast so much that it cannot be as simple as it having eaten the demon emperor's offspring. It is highly likely that it took something from the demon emperor's secret realm, which is why the demon clan is willing to pay any price to launch a war to find it. One of the Grand Elders' eyes lit up with fervor. Then if we find it first, wouldn't that precious treasure fall into the hands of our 9 sects? Qin Wangchuan rolled her eyes and retorted bluntly, "Find it. The 9 sects cover such a vast territory, we would never find it even if we searched for ages." That is true. Searching for a single spirit beast across the vast lands with not a single clue is no different from looking for a needle in an ocean. Yu Yingchen nodded. "I did not summon all of you to look for the Demon Emperor's offspring, or this mysterious little spirit beast. The fact that this little spirit beast was able to escape from Demon Emperor Secret Realm means that the Demon Emperor Secret Realm has opened. That is the truly dangerous matter." The several Grand Elders shuddered, only now realizing the severity of the situation. If a demon found a chance to break through to the Demon Emperor realm inside, the Demon Clan would immediately have 2 Demon Emperors. How on earth would the 9 sects fend them off? Everyone knew that their backing, the Heavenly Secret Pavilion, only had one nascent soul realm cultivator in its ranks. Therefore, I would like to invite all of you to sneak into the heart of the Demon Clan's territory with me. It would be best if we can close the secret realm, but if we cannot, causing some trouble for the Demon Clan to delay their entry is still a worthwhile goal. Sneak into the Demon Clan's heartland. The several Grand Elders wore looks of fear. This was no trivial matter. Deep in the Demon Clan's territory, the Demon Emperor was stationed there. If they ran into him, every single one of the 9 of them would perish there without exception. Yu Yingchen said, "Naturally, we will not fight a battle we are not sure of winning. We will only sneak in after the war between the 2 races reaches its climax and the Demon Emperor has traveled to the front lines. Only then did they relax. If that was the case, it would be much safer." Yu Yingchen continued, "All of you should make proper preparations in the coming days. Judging by the battle situation at the front lines, the decisive battle is not far off." What? Qin Wangchuan exclaimed in shock and doubt. That fast? Not long ago, the front lines were evenly matched with both sides trading blows. Why has it suddenly turned so ferocious? Yu Yingchen shook his head slightly, a look of confusion on his face. "I do not understand it either. Originally, a massive horde of demonic beasts was about to launch a beast tied on the western front, where the Hehuan Sect is stationed. For unknown reasons, they have all withdrawn and been redeployed to the northern front line. Their intention is obvious. They plan to concentrate their forces for a decisive battle against our human race." Just as the numerous Grand Elders were filled with confusion, The Grand Elder of the Myriad Swords Sect spoke with a bitter smile. There is no need to guess. This matter is related to that masked boy and the daughter of the Demon Emperor. Who is this masked boy, and how is he connected to the Demon Emperor's daughter? Qin Wangchuan raised her brows. Spit it out already. Stop beating around the bush. I hate it most when people drag things out and keep others guessing. The Myriad Swords Sect Grand Elder put on a stern face. Old hag, watch your language. Your filthy mouth is a disgrace to decorum. With a loud boom, the ground beneath Qin Wangchuan's feet split open. Her two small fists had clenched at some point, and raging flames burned in her large eyes. It was clear she was ready to start a brawl at the slightest provocation. The Myriad Swords Sect Grand Elder's cheeks twitched, and he spoke hastily. The matter is actually quite simple. Leoli, the Demon Emperor's daughter, who was in charge of the demonic beasts on the Western Front, suffered a crushing defeat at the hands of one of our human juniors. She was forced to abandon the demonic beasts on the Western Front and flee back to the demon realm. With no leader to take command of the Western Horde, they had no choice but to withdraw to the north. Several Grand Elders wore expressions of astonishment as they listened. Qin Wangchuan asked suspiciously, the Demon Emperor's daughter suffered a loss at the hands of a human junior. She bears the Demon Emperor's bloodline and possesses immense strength. How could she possibly lose to a human junior? The Myriad Sword Sect Grand Elder wore a playful smile. Pay attention to my wording. She suffered a crushing loss. Would you believe that he took the Demon Emperor's daughter's virginity? The scalps of several Grand Elders went numb on the spot. This was far too shocking. The dignified daughter of the Demon Emperor, commander of the Western Front, had been defiled by a human junior. Yu Yingchen shuddered. How could that boy bring himself to do it? Demons have hideous appearances. Just touching one is disgusting enough, let alone doing that with one. The group of old men shivered in revulsion, one after another. Old you don't have to say it out loud. Just knowing it is enough. Your words are giving me goosebumps all over. Just for this alone, I kind of admire that boy. But the Myriad Sword Sect Grand Elder wore a strange expression. You have misunderstood. That Demon Emperor's daughter was born with a human form, nearly indistinguishable from our human race. What is more, she is devastatingly beautiful, no less attractive than Liu Qingxian, who is known as the most beautiful female disciple of the 9 great sects. The group of old men froze for a long moment, then their faces turned livid with rage. That little bastard. He got far too lucky. The Myriad Sword Sect Grand Elder also showed a hint of envy as he shook his head slightly. If that was all, it would be one thing. This boy also stole all her treasures, including the Skyquake Bow, a natural top-grade magical artifact of the demon race. What the hell? Taking her virginity, stealing her treasures, then dumping her and acting like nothing happened. I thought that was already scummy enough. This boy is even worse than the worst scumbag. The Demon Emperor's daughter must have had the worst luck in the world to run into him. The corner of the Myriad Sword Sect Grand Elder's mouth twitched. There is even more to it. He lured our sect's Grand Elder Zhu Qingyong to hunt her down with the intent to kill. She nearly lost her life in human territory. If that devouring sky tiger had not protected her with its life, she would have perished on our human lands for good. The group of Grand Elders stared at each other in stunned silence. Taking her body, stealing her treasures, then trying to take her life, he left absolutely nothing for her. He is truly as scummy as he is ruthless. No wonder that Demoness did not dare return to the Western Front. Yu Yingchen said in stunned shock. If that is the case, part of the reason the demon race is launching a decisive battle is to avenge the Demon Emperor's daughter. This single boy altered the entire situation of the battlefield all by himself. The Myriad Sword Sect Grand Elder rubbed his nose. You could say that. The group of Grand Elders fell silent on the spot. They had been fighting tooth and nail on the front lines, and none of their efforts had half the impact of that outrageous stunt pulled by a single junior from the logistics division. Qin Wangchuan spat lightly. Scumbag. Now that the decisive battle is about to begin, the Demon Emperor himself will arrive at the front lines before long. That will be the time for us to sneak into the heart of the demon race's territory. We shall adjourn here for now. Yu Yingchen nodded, then suddenly recalled something and smacked his forehead. Blast, I ought to have warned Fang Chen earlier, he cursed. Qin Wangchuan glanced over, a puzzled expression crossing his face. Yu Yingchen cast a quick look at the Grand Elder of the Hehuan Sect and spoke. Several sect masters have already rushed to the front line to bolster the defenses, including the Hehuan Sect Master. If Fang Chen encounters her, Fang Chen had no inkling of this whatsoever. After seeing Kaga settled properly, he made his way directly to the giant sect without delay. This lowly one is Fang Chen, a disciple of the Hehuan Sect, here to execute a first-class mission. Before his departure, Fang Chen had asked his sect master to assign him a first-class mission. The sect master provided multiple options, and he selected the most thorny one among them, interrogating a demon king. This demon king was captured alive from the front line and holds a significant position in the beast horde. The Heavenly Secrets Pavilion intends to extract information on the next move of the beast horde from it, to lay an ambush for the demon race. Unfortunately, this demon king is extraordinarily wild and unyielding, unafraid of even the harshest torture, and would rather die than submit. Left with no alternative, the Heavenly Secrets Pavilion issued this interrogation mission ranked at first-class level. Numerous cultivators accepted this mission, exhausting every possible interrogation technique, yet all returned empty-handed. Rumor has it that even an elder from the Spirit Beast sect arrived, yet even he, who is highly adept at interacting with spirit beasts, failed to pry open the Demon King's mouth. Yet another person wasting their time. The deacon of the mission hall was a towering, strapping man with an exceptionally imposing and muscular build. The moment he heard it was for the Demon King interrogation mission and that the visitor was a Hehuan Sect disciple, he wore an impatient scowl. His hostility towards the Hehuan Sect was blatantly obvious. Fang Chen furrowed his brows. The Hehuan Sect and Giant Sect had long been on bad terms. After Tai Bubai, the great elder of the Giant Sect, dropped dead at the border of the Hehuan Sect, relations between the two sects deteriorated further. He had anticipated facing deliberate difficulties, but such blatant contempt made it clear what kind of treatment other Hehuan Sect disciples received when dealing with the Giant Sect. Fang Chen said no more, slamming the mission jade slip onto the table. This mission was issued by the Heavenly Secrets Pavilion. I ask you, will you cooperate or not? The mission hall deacon narrowed his tiger-like eyes, laughing in exasperation. Threatening me? Do you have any idea where you stand? Fang Chen paid him no heed, immediately taking out pen and paper to write a letter. The deacon's eyelids jumped violently when he saw the contents. It was an official report addressed to the Heavenly Secrets Pavilion. The report accused the Giant Sect of obstructing a Heavenly Secrets Pavilion mission, harboring the Demon King, and having suspicious, undisclosed motives. Have you no shame, writing a report letter over such a trivial matter? The deacon snapped furiously. I was just giving him a hard time. Was there any need for this level of exaggeration? Harboring a Demon King, unknown motives. Who could possibly bear such a monstrous, unfounded accusation? He might as well just accuse the Giant Sect of colluding with the demon race outright. Fang Chen replied unapologetically, if the venerable Grand Sect Master sees no shame in writing a report letter, what do I have to fear? At that moment, a Giant Sect elder with a nervous countenance bowed slightly and stammered, Vice Pavilion Master Yun, your esteemed arrival has caught us unprepared. This humble one has failed to welcome you from afar. Failed to welcome you from afar. I shall go notify the Sect Master immediately. An immortal, like sage, like old man clad in Taoist robes and holding a whisk, strode steadily and unhurriedly straight towards the mission hall. He did not turn his head as he spoke. There is no need. This Vice Pavilion Master has come to collect the mission registration ledger. I shall depart once I have obtained it. Missions completed by disciples of all sects are tallied once a month, with each disciple's mission completion record and earned merit points publicly announced. It had now been exactly 1 month since the first batch of missions was issued. Yu Yunzi had been ordered to visit the 9 sects to collect their mission registration ledgers. The moment he stepped through the door, he heard mention of someone writing a report letter, and his expression instantly turned solemn and majestic. What perverse trend has been spreading lately? The Grand Sect Master reported a junior disciple just over a minor grievance, and now a young disciple is reporting the Giant Sect for trivial matters. If this continues, the reporting system will be reduced to a complete farce. Which sect do you hail from, disciple? Yu Yunzi strode toward the figure writing the report letter. As Vice Pavilion Master, he was fully prepared to give this offender a proper scolding today. Seeing this, the mission hall deacon was struck with terror, hurrying over at a run. He silently cupped his fists in a formal salute, then stood obediently behind his elder, not daring to even draw a heavy breath. No one had expected that the tallying of merit points at the Heavenly Secrets Pavilion would be personally overseen by a Vice Pavilion Master, a clear testament to how extraordinarily valued merit points are by the organization. But upon closer reflection, this is only reasonable. Every single merit point can be exchanged for treasures and resources from the Heavenly Secrets Pavilion's treasury. What they are tallying are not merit points, but the very wealth of the Heavenly Secrets Pavilion. How could they possibly not treat it with the utmost seriousness? What filled the deacon with secret glee was that this vice pavilion master seemed to have heard Fang Chen intended to write a report letter, was greatly displeased by the matter, and looked fully prepared to reprimand him harshly. "Who do you think you are, daring to copy others and write report letters?" The deacon sneered inwardly, as if he could already see the scene of Fang Chen being publicly dressed down. Fang Chen heard someone calling out to him, turned his head in surprise, and immediately set down the brush in his hand. He cupped his fists in salute and said, "This junior is Fang Chen of the Azure Cloud Sect. Greetings to Vice Pavilion Master Yu." Fang Chen, a look of immediate surprise crossed Yu Yunzi's face as he exclaimed, "Why, it's you." Fang Chen smiled and replied, "This junior has come to carry out a first-tier mission." Yu Yunzi was secretly shocked. In the short time since their last meeting, Fang Chen had grown strong enough to take on first-tier missions. He truly lived up to being the promising junior he had set his eyes on. When the Heavenly Secrets Pavilion opened its disciple recruitment, he would do whatever it took to take this exceptionally talented youth under his wing. "What is the mission? Let me see." Yu Yunzi picked up the jade slip on the table, swept his divine sense across its contents, and a look of stark surprise appeared on his face. "Interrogate the Demon King. This mission is no easy feat to complete. At least 10 cultivators have taken this mission and failed. You must be cautious. Your mission failure rate will directly affect your merit ranking." "Failure affects the ranking too." Fang Chen was slightly stunned by this news. Yu Yunzi asked in surprise, "Did no one remind you of this rule before you accepted the first-tier mission?" To prevent disciples from hoarding high reward merit missions but failing to execute them seriously, the Heavenly Secrets Pavilion established this rule long ago. If a first-tier mission is failed, half the merit points of that mission will be deducted from the cultivator's total. Fang Chen clicked his tongue in astonishment. In other words, if he failed to complete the mission, he would not only receive no merit points, but also have to pay back half the mission's reward as a penalty. Was it because his strength was so formidable that it gave Liu Wenchen and the others the illusion that he could never fail, so they neglected to remind him of such an important rule? He gave a bitter smile, cupped his fists, and said, "Thank you for the reminder, Vice Pavilion Master Yu. Since this disciple has accepted this mission, I naturally have sufficient confidence in completing it." Seeing his resolve, Yu Yunzi did not persuade him further. He nodded and said with a smile, "Then go on ahead. I look forward to seeing your name on the merit ranking list after the tally is complete." Fang Chen hesitated for a moment, then said, "Please wait a moment, Vice Pavilion Master Yu. Let me finish writing this report letter, so you can bring it back to the Heavenly Secrets Pavilion on your way." The corner of Yu Yunzi's mouth twitched. He had almost forgotten that he originally intended to reprimand Fang Chen for the unhealthy practice of submitting random report letters. But if it was Fang Chen making the report, how could that be called a perverse trend? That was a righteous act, the brave exposure of malpractices without fear of powerful forces, a model example for all cultivators to follow. With this Vice Pavilion Master present, what need is there for a report letter? Yu Yunzi's voice carried the inherent majesty of one in high position. Whatever problem you have, this Vice Pavilion Master will solve it for you on the spot. He was, after all, one of the 4 Vice Pavilion Masters. Except for major events that affected the entire 9 sects continent, which required joint discussion with the Pavilion Master, he had full authority to handle all other matters on his own. Fang Chen's eyes lit up. A report letter was far less efficient than filing a complaint in person. He immediately gave a brief, clear account of what he had encountered. After listening, Yu Yunzi's face darkened. He had originally assumed it was a trivial matter, but after learning the full details, he discovered that the giant sect's deacon had dared to obstruct another cultivator from carrying out a first-tier mission. Every mission issued by the Heavenly Secrets Pavilion was tied to the war between the human race and the demon race, especially first-tier missions, which directly impacted the direction of the battlefield. This was absolutely no trivial matter. The Demon King interrogation mission had already failed over 10 times, with no progress made for a long stretch of time. Even the Heavenly Secrets Pavilion Master had been alarmed by this, and had personally asked about the mission's status. If no one completed it soon, the mission would be withdrawn, and the Heavenly Secrets Pavilion would send specialized personnel to conduct the interrogation themselves. What Yu Yunzi never expected was that for such a critical mission, instead of actively seeking capable cultivators to complete it, the giant sect was actually holding up eligible candidates and refusing to cooperate with mission execution. "How dare you?" Yu Yunzi shot forth waves of imposing gaze and thundered in a deep voice. Not to mention the deacon, even the elder accompanying beside him trembled violently in fear. He spun around and kicked the deacon so hard that the latter fell to his knees. Who gave you the audacity to obstruct a Tier 1 mission? Are you tired of living? The deacon stammered in terror, reporting to Vice Pavilion Master Yu. It was Jin Zhongming who ordered me to temporarily bar anyone from carrying out this mission. Jin Zhongming, Yu Yunzi frowned slightly. Even within the Heavenly Secrets Pavilion, he had heard of this name. For he was the most talented Heaven's pride on the Nine Sects continent, second only to Xia Keoj, the current chief disciple of the Giant Sect, and a Vice Pavilion Master had already explicitly stated their intent to take him as a disciple. Fang Chen also wore a look of astonishment. A person's reputation is like the shadow of a tree. As someone residing in the Nine Sects domain, how could he have never heard the name Jin Zhongming? It was no wonder this deacon dared to make things difficult. Jin Zhongming's status was no lower than that of some elders of the Giant Sect. The deacon before them simply did not dare to defy his orders. Yu Yunzi looked at Fang Chen and asked, "Do you still wish to carry out this mission?" His tone was no longer as fierce as before, for he was considering Fang Chen's situation. If he used his identity as Vice Pavilion Master to force the mission to proceed, there would naturally be no issue. Even the Vice Pavilion Master backing Jin Zhongming would have no grounds to object. The problem was, once he left, Fang Chen would have offended Jin Zhongming. Before the beast tide ended, Fang Chen would most likely remain within the Giant Sect's territory, and it would be disastrous if Jin Zhongming sought revenge against him. To Yu Yunzi's surprise, Fang Chen asked in return, "Vice Pavilion Master Yu, why would you say such a thing?" He wore a confused expression. Could it be that even Yu Yunzi feared this Jin Zhongming? Yu Yunzi reminded him out of goodwill. As far as this old man knows, this Jin Zhongming has a rather foul temper. So he was worried that I would be bullied. Fang Chen realized with a smile, which member of the Giant Sect has a good temper? I have even offended their sect master as I pleased. What is a mere chief disciple to me? Yu Yunzi clicked his tongue in astonishment. You are just a low-ranking disciple. How could you have even offended the Giant Sect's master? However, he admired Fang Chen even more now. As a martial cultivator, one could not go far on the path of cultivation without a shred of courage and fighting spirit. Since you have said so, this Vice Pavilion Master shall accompany you on this trip. I also wish to see for myself just how stubborn this Demon King really is. Yu Yunzi nodded slightly. After speaking, he turned his cold gaze to the deacon kneeling on the ground. Lead the way now. The deacon was so terrified that he repeatedly answered, yes, yes, yes. He hurriedly led Yu Yunzi and Fang Chen to the Giant Sect's prison. The elder, on the other hand, sensed that something was amiss, and hurried to the sect master's hall. At this moment, Kong Yuanba, the sect master of the Giant Sect, was putting on an obsequious smile as he entertained an old woman seated at the head seat. Her hair was snow white, yet her skin was as rosy and glossy as that of a woman in her 30s, and her pair of weary eyes were unfathomably deep. Vice Hall Master Gu, thanks to your reminder, we only learned that this Demon King holds such critical secrets. We almost let outsiders take this advantage. Kong Yuanba bowed repeatedly, his gratitude evident. The woman before him was none other than Gu Huaxi, one of the 4 Vice Pavilion Masters of the Heavenly Secrets Pavilion, and also the Vice Pavilion Master who had expressed intent to take Jin Zhongming as her disciple. She had made a special trip to inform the Giant Sect that the mission of interrogating the Demon King carried enormous merit. If Jin Zhongming completed it, the Heavenly Secrets Pavilion would reward him handsomely. Gu Huaxi nodded slightly and said, "This old woman's actions are against the rules. If word spreads, I will certainly be the subject of public criticism." Kong Yuanba immediately understood her meaning and hastily said, "Rest assured, Vice Pavilion Master Gu, we have no knowledge that you ever visited the Giant Sect." Seeing that he was so sensible, Gu Huaxi was slightly reassured and said, "Inform Jin Zhongming to return to the sect as soon as possible to deal with this beast. This old woman can only help him this far. Farewell." But just at that moment, the elder hurried over to report, "Sect Master, a Qin Sect disciple has gone to interrogate that Demon King." Kong Yuanba frowned. Who gave them permission? Didn't Jin Zhongming send a message to the mission hall to temporarily bar anyone from carrying out this mission and wait for his return before proceeding with anything? What was more, it was a Qin Sect disciple. A look of anger flashed across his eyes. Disciples of other sects were already forbidden from carrying out this mission, let alone those from the Qin Sect, for the 2 sects had long been at odds. There was also the incident where his prized disciple, Kong Manor, was defeated by a low-ranking Qin Sect disciple using physical combat techniques, which brought great shame to the Giant Sect. Later, the Great Elder was brutally killed at the border between the 2 sects. Though there was no evidence, there was no doubt that the Qin Sect was responsible. The feud between the 2 sects had long been deep-seated. Now they are actually handing this kind of mission over to a Hehuan Sect disciple to carry out. Preposterous. Does that mission hull deacon no longer want his position? The elder hurriedly bowed and said, reporting to Sect Master, this Hehuan Sect disciple has the backing of a Heavenly Secrets Pavilion Vice Pavilion Master. How would we dare to stop him? Kong Yuanba's expression shifted slightly, and he could not help but glance at Gu Huaxi, who also wore a look of astonishment. No one had ever heard of any Vice Pavilion Lord being on good terms with the Azure Cloud Sect. Gu Huaxi rose to his feet leaning on a dragon, coiled walking cane, and asked, which Vice Pavilion Lord is it? The elder answered cautiously, it is Vice Pavilion Lord Yu Yunzi. Gu Huaxi grew even more perplexed. How could it be him? After he last went to the Azure Cloud Sect to notify them of the beast tide, he never mentioned the Azure Cloud Sect even once, as if the sect had offended him somehow. Why would he suddenly go out of his way to help a disciple of the Azure Cloud Sect? Her intuition told her that Yu Yunzi must have discovered something during his last visit to the Azure Cloud Sect, hence he kept it a closely guarded secret and deliberately avoided all mention of the sect. This piqued her curiosity. After a moment of thought, she said, we have been old friends for many years. Now that we have run into each other, there is no reason not to greet him. Take me to see him. Kong Yuanba heaved a sigh of relief. If Yu Yunzi was backing Fang Chen, he would not dare obstruct Fang Chen from interrogating the Demon King, even if he had 100 guts. Now that Gu Huaxi was taking the lead, things would be far easier. The prison of the Giant Sect was originally a dungeon used to lock up disciples who had committed heinous, unforgivable crimes. Now, however, it was completely empty, having been remodeled into a special dungeon dedicated to holding that captured Beast King. Fortunately, all members of the Giant Sect are of imposing, stocky build, so their prisons were constructed far more spacious than ordinary ones. Otherwise, they would never have been able to fit a living Beast King inside. Even so, when Fang Chen laid eyes on the Beast King, he could clearly sense how much suffering it was enduring at the moment. In the deepest part of the dungeon, bound tightly to a massive stone pillar so wide it would take 10 men linking arms to encircle it, was a gray-furred demonic wolf secured by over a dozen pitch-black chains as thick as a grown man's arm. It measured a full 10 zhang in length. At present, its legs were bent, and it was practically kneeling on the ground, completely unable to stand up. Its head was already pressed against the dungeon ceiling, forcing it into this agonizing posture, where it could neither stand straight nor kneel properly. Hearing the sound of movement, its ears twitched. The exhausted, slumbering beast abruptly snapped open its enormous eyes, shooting out 2 beams of ferocious light, and let out a roar that carried a pungent, reeking stench. Fang Chen fell silent. Even after being interrogated by so many people, it was still this vicious. Its will was far tougher than ordinary, which explained why all previous attempts to interrogate it had ended in failure. Yu Yunzi stood with his hands behind his back, observing the beast, a look of confusion on his face. No matter how ferocious a demonic beast is, it is still made of flesh and blood. None of the demonic beasts we captured in the past were this stubborn. They all became docile as lambs after a round of torture. Why is this one so defiant and unruly? He paused for a moment, then looked at Fang Chen with a worried expression, saying, I fear it will be extremely difficult to force it to speak. He was afraid that Fang Chen would meet the same fate as all those who came before him, and end up having his merit points deducted as punishment. Fang Chen stroked his chin and replied, this junior has his own methods. He subtly flicked his sleeve, and the black mirror hidden within quietly flashed a beam of light at the Beast King. Immediately after, a string of unintelligible, chattering noises rang out in Fang Chen's mind, which was unmistakably the language of the demon race. He had almost forgotten that the subject of the interrogation was of the demon race, so someone proficient in the demon language would be required to assist. But this was no problem at all for Fang Chen. He patted the little Qilin curled up in his arms, which was snoring loudly as it slept. Time to work. He did not know what had happened lately, but the little Qilin seemed to be growing sleepier and sleepier. It used to constantly clamor for elixirs, but at some point it started sleeping for days on end without waking, and no longer pestered him for elixirs. Could it be ill? The little Qilin let out a soft whine, stretched its body languidly, and the sound of its yawn echoed in Fang Chen's mind. All of a sudden it mumbled, Master, why is someone cursing you? It says you are as thin as a stick of firewood, too thin even to pick its teeth, and you have the audacity to come interrogate it. Fang Chen's face darkened, and he replied in his mind, Ignore this rude creature. Listen carefully to everything it says next. Translate any information related to the beast tied for me, and forget everything else. He shared a soul bond with the little Qin. Any thoughts of the demonic wolf that Fang Chen picked up, the little Qin could also hear. With it acting as his translator, he naturally had no need to worry about not understanding what the demonic wolf was saying. It's cursing again. Oh wow, its language is so foul, my ears are getting polluted. Fang Chen's face grew even grimmer. This bastard, it hasn't even been interrogated yet, and it's already spouting insults. Such an ill-mannered beast. Fang Chen, how do you plan to interrogate it? Seeing how confident Fang Chen was, Yu Yunzi could not help feeling curious. Could Fang Chen truly have some unique method that could make the demonic wolf submit obediently? Fang Chen did not answer. He walked up to the demonic wolf, confirmed that all its limbs were restrained and it had no way to fight back, then unceremoniously raised his palm, jumped up and slapped it hard across the mouth. Yu Yunzi was stunned for a moment, slapping its face. What an unadorned, straightforward interrogation method, but how could that possibly harm a demonic wolf? This demonic wolf was covered in lacerations all over its body. For a being at the mid-golden core realm to bear such wounds, it had clearly suffered exceptionally brutal torture already. What use could a mere slap possibly be? The demonic wolf froze for an instant, then a mocking glint flared in its eyes as it began babbling strange, guttural cries. At the same time, the little Qin's simultaneous translation rang out in Fang Chen's mind. Twig, are you tickling me? Why are you as soft as a woman? You're way gentler than the guys before you. Fang Chen chuckled softly and raised his palm without giving away his intent. Glowing streams of 7-colored and violet light swirled across his palm. His slap would never be so trivial. The next instant, the demonic wolf seemed to sense something amiss, and let out a violent, agonized roar. Hiss, it burns. What did you do to me? The side of the demonic wolf's muzzle that had been struck swelled up at a visible speed, rapidly turning pitch black. Even as a demon king at the mid-golden core realm, it could not withstand the deadly venom of the 7-colored poison toad and the poison dragon marrow. Next, Fang Chen slapped each of its open wounds in turn. Every spot his palm touched immediately began festering, drawing shrill, soul-rending howls of agony from the demonic wolf. After those few slaps, the look in the demonic wolf's eyes as it stared at Fang Chen had changed completely. It no longer dared to babble strange cries aloud, and instead turned to cursing him in its mind. Where did this little freak come from? How does he have the 7-colored poison toad's venom in his body? Damn it all. The moment it finished that silent thought, the little Qin relayed the translation instantly. Master, it called you a little freak. Fang Chen raised his palm and struck again, sending the demonic wolf convulsing all over in agony. It gurgled out a series of cries, and the little Qin translated. Master, it says it didn't curse you. Why are you still hitting it? Fang Chen stood with his hands behind his back and said coolly, cursing me in your mind is not allowed either. The demonic wolf's eyes bulged wide, and it thought in bewilderment, what the hell, can you even hear what I'm thinking? Seeing Fang Chen raise his palm again, it hastily babbled, stop hitting, I said you're a little cutie. Asterisk crack, asterisk another heavy slap landed, the venom searing through it so viciously the demonic wolf wished it were dead, letting out an earth-shaking roar of pain. All this time, those interrogating it had been disciples of various sects. Their strength was limited, so even when they used torture, the harm they could inflict was minimal. Most of it was mere tickling, and the worst of it only cut its skin, never reaching its bones or core. But this little freak before it was different. Every slap sent venom searing through it enough to make it die and come back to life, more agonizing than all the previous torture combined. This stoked its feral nature, and it roared savagely, just poison me to death then. Even if I die, I will never reveal my secrets. After receiving the little Qin's simultaneous translation, Fang Chen said coolly, you misunderstand. Those slaps were just to teach you to watch your mouth. If I wanted to learn your secrets, why would I resort to such a lowly method as interrogation? I only need to ask, and you will tell me. The demonic wolf endured the searing pain, a sneer twisting its features as it babbled. Then try it. Yu Yunzi, standing to the side, was also confused. No interrogation, just asking questions. Would this ferocious demonic wolf actually confess obediently? Fang Chen stood with his hands behind his back and asked, what is your status among the demon race? The demonic wolf threw its head back and howled with laughter, and the little Qin translated, it is saying out loud, guess, cutie. But in its mind it is saying, I am Golden Claw Iron Wolf, Vice, Captain of the Royal Guard. You puny humans will never get a single word out of me. I, Golden Claw Iron Wolf, am loyal to the royal clan to the death. The moment that thought finished crossing its mind, Fang Chen nodded slightly and said, Golden Claw Iron Wolf, I ask you again, since you are part of the Royal Guard, why are you at the front lines? Could it be that a member of the Demon Royal Clan has arrived at the front? Is it Leoli, the Demon Emperor's daughter? The demonic wolf's expression froze, its eyes slowly widening to the size of saucers. It babbled in panic, saying out loud, how do you know? I didn't say anything. But in its mind it thought, it's over. Has the arrival of the Demon Emperor's consort at the front lines already been exposed? Which bastard did this? I will tear that traitor apart. There was quite a lot of information to process. Fang Chen took out paper and brush to record it. First intelligence confessed by Golden Claw Iron Wolf, Vice Captain of the Royal Guard. The Demon Emperor's consort has secretly arrived at the front lines. The demonic wolf craned its head and glanced at what Fang Chen was writing, its eyes bulging wide once more. It could recognize some human characters and roared repeatedly, I didn't confess that. You're slandering me. You're slandering me. Fang Chen set down his brush and asked again, what is this Demon Emperor's consort doing at the front line? The Golden Claw Iron Wolf opened its jaws, but it had learned its lesson this time, shutting its mouth promptly. It huffed coldly in its heart. I will not utter a single word this time. I would like to see if you can still guess right. How could you possibly figure out that the Demon Emperor's consort came to deliver the Demon Emperor's essence blood to temporarily boost the combat power of several demon kings, catching the human experts completely off guard? Having received the simultaneous translation from the little Qilin, Fang Chen nodded. He picked up his brush and continued writing. Second piece of submitted intelligence. The Demon Emperor has secretly distributed his essence blood to the frontline demon kings to break the current stalemate. The Golden Claw Iron Wolf's eyes nearly bulged out of its skull, and it stammered, who the hell told you this? Don't pin this on me. This has nothing to do with me. It was clearly some other traitorous demon that had leaked the demon clan's secrets, so why was the blame being dumped on its head? It dared not imagine how the Demon Emperor would punish it if he mistook it for the culprit. At the very least, it would be fried in oil for a full 81 times, would it not? Fang Chen nodded in satisfaction. A casual interrogation had actually unearthed such an earth-shattering piece of classified intelligence. The boosting effect of Demon Emperor essence blood on demonic beast strength is self-evident. If human powerhouses are caught completely unprepared when the demon kings suddenly surge in combat power, the consequences will be unfathomable. The human defense line might collapse on the spot, and the beast horde would sweep across the entire 9 sects domain like a breached flood. Even if all human experts are deployed at that point, there will be no way to turn the tide. Of course, this was far from enough. This demonic wolf did not look particularly intelligent, so there was still plenty of useful intelligence to extract from it. I will ask you again, where is the Demon Emperor's consort currently located? The demonic wolf was so frightened by the question that its heart lurched, and it repeatedly slammed its head against the stone pillar, trying to knock itself unconscious. The little Qilin reported, Master, it is saying in its heart, I cannot speak, or I will become a traitor to the demon race. Your Majesty, the consort, run quickly, do not stay in Wailing Souls Canyon any longer. The humans have already set their sights on you. Another critical piece of intelligence. Fang Chen picked up his brush and wrote, third piece of submitted intelligence. The Demon Emperor's consort is hiding in Wailing Souls Canyon. The demonic wolf took a close look, and its soul nearly fled its body in terror. It trembled incessantly, babbling, heavens, I truly did not say this. Who will testify for me? I am no traitor to the demon race. Suddenly, the demonic wolf jolted in its heart. Could it be that he can read my thoughts? The little Qilin also promptly reminded him of this possibility, but Fang Chen did not care in the slightest, saying, it is better if he knows. He immediately asked again, what is the name of this Demon Emperor's consort? What does she look like? The demonic wolf kept slamming against the stone pillar, trying to knock itself out as quickly as possible, repeating silently in its heart, do not think of it, do not think of it. This brat can probably read minds. If I think of Consort Yunxia, her information will be exposed. At the same time, the little Qilin gestured in Fang Chen's mind. Consort Yunxia has 9 long tails. Her figure and facial features are very similar to a human's. She likes to wear white robes. Extraordinarily beautiful, speaks in a gentle and pleasant voice, and her cultivation is extremely powerful, reaching the late stage of the Golden Core realm. Fang Chen nodded, picked up his brush and noted it down. Fourth piece of submitted intelligence. Consort Yunxia bears 9 tails, possesses exceptional beauty, cultivation base at late Golden Core realm. After finishing the records, Fang Chen wore a sincere smile, reached out and shook its wolf paw. Vice Captain Golden Claw Iron Wolf, thank you for your tremendous cooperation. You have earned the friendship of our human race, and have made indelible meritorious contributions to our victory over the beast horde. I will submit an application to the Heavenly Secrets Pavilion to award you Human Race Glory Medal in recognition of your outstanding contributions. The Golden Claw Iron Wolf shook off his hand in terror, its eyes filled with pleading, and whimpered, I did no such thing. I am utterly loyal to the demon race. I am a demon of the demon race in life, and a soul of the demon race in death. Fang Chen smiled, turned to Yunzi and said, Senior, please instruct the giant sect to treat this demonic wolf well. Make sure to provide it with the finest food and drink. Now that the great war between the two races is imminent, our human race needs to set an example of a surrendered demon, so that those demons can see how comfortable life is after they surrender to us. Yunzi laughed involuntarily. You brat, your idea actually coincides exactly with our pavilion masters. We have indeed been looking for such an example recently. This Golden Claw Iron Wolf hath been so cooperative, it might as well get this lucky break. Hearing these words, the Golden Claw Iron Wolf roared in rage. The demon race will never be slaves. We would rather die than surrender. Fang Chen glanced at it, which was already covered in cuts and bruises, and said, Besides food and drink, we need to take good care of it. Later I will ask the sect master of the Spirit Beast sect for a few female wolves to look after it properly. The Golden Claw Iron Wolf was still roaring. I don't want your human food and drink. I don't want your female wolves. Wait, female wolves, are they pretty? Damn it, what am I thinking? You little scoundrel, you are shameless. You are despicable. You are corrupting my loyalty. Fang Chen rolled his eyes at it, sorted out the interrogation records, and said, Vice Pavilion Master Yu, the interrogation is complete. I will go to the mission hall first to hand in the task. You can bring this classified information to request an audience with the Pavilion Master of the Heavenly Secrets Pavilion. If we delay too long, it might lead to a great disaster. Yunzi was bewildered. What kind of classified information is so important that it requires alarming the Pavilion Master? Is it really that serious? But when he glanced at the content on the records, he was greatly shocked. The Demon Emperor's consort has arrived at the front line. After confirming that he had read it correctly, Yunzi was filled with both shock and rage. That despicable Demon Emperor. He actually dares to break the tacit understanding between him and our Pavilion Master. Both the Demon Emperor and the Pavilion Master of the Heavenly Secrets Pavilion are existences at the nascent soul realm. Once they make a move, the consequences will be countless casualties. Neither side wished for the other to join the battlefield, so they had a clear tacit understanding. Neither would appear until the final decisive battle. No one expected that the Demon Emperor would play cheap tricks in secret, actually distributing his essence blood for use at the front line. If the human experts were caught unaware, the consequences would be unimaginable. Fang Chen, you have performed a great service, Yunzi said with a lingering fear. The Pavilion Master will definitely reward you handsomely for this matter. Fang Chen's gaze was calm as he spoke. When the lips perish, the teeth turn cold. I do only what lies within my power, for I have no wish to see the beast tide descend in the days to come and bring disaster upon myself. There is no need for rewards. I only ask that the Heavenly Secrets Pavilion handle this matter with the utmost care. Yunzi praised him silently in his heart. As expected of the youth, he had set his eyes on. He could remain perfectly composed even when offered a reward by the Pavilion Master of the Heavenly Secrets Pavilion. One must know that a single word from the Heavenly Secrets Pavilion Master was enough to alter the fate of an ordinary mortal. He felt quiet gratification. He alone had discovered how extraordinary Fang Chen was. When the time came, he would spare no cost to bring this youth under his command and nurture him carefully. Tap, tap, tap. Suddenly, a rapid series of footsteps approached. Yunzi lifted his eyes, and his brow arched in surprise. Vice Pavilion Master Gu. He wore a look of utter shock. Why would he encounter Gu Huaxi here? He was present on official assignment, but Gu Huaxi was supposed to be on stand. By at the pavilion, was she not? Gu Huaxi glanced at the Golden Claw Iron Wolf, whose numerous wounds were charred black, and her heart sank slightly. Vice Pavilion Master Yu, how goes the interrogation? Yunzi tucked the documents into his chest without betraying a single emotion on his face. The gains are substantial. I am just about to report to the Pavilion Master. These words made Gu Huaxi feel a surge of unease. Could it be that this Golden Claw Iron Wolf had truly revealed extremely critical intelligence? Then wouldn't Jin Zhongming's credit vanish entirely? She had made a special trip here to deliver notice, and it had all been for nothing. Wait a moment. Gu Huaxi stepped forward to block him. Vice Pavilion Master Yu, interrogation duties are supposed to be carried out by disciples, are they not? It would be improper for a Vice Pavilion Master such as yourself to meddle in this matter. Would it not? Yunzi's eyes narrowed slightly. That question should be mine to ask. The beast tide is raging. Vice Pavilion Master Gu, instead of remaining on stand by at the Heavenly Secrets Pavilion as ordered, why have you come to the giant sect? And why are you so concerned with this Demon King interrogation mission? He did not speak further. Sensing the weight of the intelligence in his bosom, he instantly understood why Qin Zhangming had forbidden anyone else from taking this mission. It was almost certain Gu Huaxi knew something, and wanted her favored, pre-selected disciple Qin Zhangming to seize this credit. Hence she had made a special trip here to warn him. Yu Yunzi frowned immediately. Vice Pavilion Master Gu, I understand the urge to dote on your disciple, but you nearly brought about a catastrophic disaster. He dared not imagine what the consequences would have been if he had not been backing this operation. If Fang Chen had not possessed such extraordinary methods to extract this life or death intelligence, at the very least, no one would have been able to interrogate this demon wolf before Qin Zhangming returned, and even he might not have succeeded once he arrived. By the time he gave up on the interrogation and handed it over to others who knew how much time would have passed, it would have been far too late. The frontline powerhouses would have faced a horde of demon kings whose strength had skyrocketed after drinking the demon emperor's blood, and the battle lines would have collapsed completely in a one-sided rout. What catastrophic disaster! You are making a mountain out of a molehill. Gu Huaxi's face was cold, and she gave a soft huff through her nose. What was wrong with helping her disciple earn merit? This was far too exaggerated. Yu Yunzi took out the documents, avoided the gaze of the giant sect master, and quietly showed a glimpse of it to Gu Huaxi. Gu Huaxi caught sight of a few lines of elegant handwriting at a single glance, but the content left her thunderstruck. Demon Emperor's consort. Yu Yunzi made a silencing gesture and growled in a low voice. You would not dare reveal this even by mistake, would you? Gu Huaxi fell silent at once, but the look of shock on her face would not fade for a long time. She instantly realized what the catastrophic disaster Yu Yunzi had mentioned was. She had come a hair's breadth away from becoming a sinner of this great war. Cold sweat immediately broke out on her forehead. If word of what happened today got back to the Heavenly Secrets Pavilion, the Pavilion Master would certainly punish her severely. I will pretend you were never here today, but this will not be allowed a second time. Yu Yunzi had no wish to make things too difficult for her. Gu Huaxi's face was stiff, and she nodded gratefully. I will remember this favor. Thank the heavens you were here to oversee the interrogation today. She looked thoroughly sheepish, all her earlier righteous confidence gone. You misunderstand. Since this is a mission for the disciples, how could I meddle in it? Yu Yunzi said, all of this intelligence was extracted by this Qin Sect disciple Fang Chen, entirely on his own. Gu Huaxi stared at Fang Chen, who had not spoken a single word this entire time, in stunned disbelief. Boy, did you truly conduct this interrogation. Gu Huaxi looked Fang Chen up and down. He looked gentle and scholarly, hardly the sort of person who could intimidate a golden claw iron wolf into submission. At that moment, the golden claw iron wolf began howling and snarling in the demon tongue, struggling furiously so that the chains binding it clanged loudly. What is it saying? Gu Huaxi asked. A deacon who was proficient in the language of the demon race had accompanied the giant sect master, and he looked at Fang Chen with a strange expression on his face as he said, This creature is saying, I am no demon traitor, kill me now. I did not reveal any intelligence about that little darling. Hearing this, Gu Huaxi had no choice but to believe it. This disciple called Fang Chen really had extracted the intelligence. That being said, the Golden Claw Iron Wolf was not as difficult to interrogate as rumors claimed, was it? Fang Chen had gotten the information so easily. If Qin Zhangming had come, he would have done it even more quickly. This boy had just gotten lucky and reaped an undeserved reward. Thinking of this, she glared at the Golden Claw Iron Wolf resentfully, spineless wretch. The Golden Claw Iron Wolf flew into a rage the moment it heard that, baring its fangs and roaring, Old hag, you try it if you're so capable. If I so much as spit out a single word, you win. The deacon translated his words carefully. Hearing this, Gu Huaxi scoffed. A mere disciple was able to interrogate you with ease. As she spoke, she lifted the coiled dragon walking staff in her hand casually, and pressed it against the Golden Claw Iron Wolf's chest from a distance. With a loud bang, a bloody hole exploded open in its chest, and the Golden Claw Iron Wolf let out a miserable howl. It howled even more loudly. That was too weak. Old hag. You think such petty tricks can break the most loyal wolf of the demon race. Dream on. It felt immense guilt over revealing intelligence to Fang Chen, and now it was recklessly trying to prove its loyalty, lest it be permanently labeled a demon traitor. Gu Huaxi's face turned cold. Insolent, she struck again repeatedly, each blow vicious and ruthless, beating the demon wolf until it screamed nonstop. All the mortals present felt their teeth ache just listening, able to imagine the unbearable pain it was in. But the golden claw iron wolf was truly stubborn to the extreme. It was beaten until it lost consciousness, but it never once yielded. Even as it slipped into unconsciousness, it remained defiant and unbroken. Gu Huaxi was left awkwardly holding the bag. She had assumed if Fang Chen could interrogate it easily, a vice pavilion master like her would have no trouble at all. Who would have thought that after using all her tricks, she could not get even a single word out of it? What in the world was going on here? Gu Huaxi's old face flushed slightly. The corner of Yu Yunzi's mouth curled up, and he said with no small amount of pride, "If brute force and torture worked on this demon king, this intelligence would have been extracted long ago." Fang Chen used some mysterious method that even I do not understand to successfully obtain the information. Only then did Gu Huaxi realize she had underestimated Fang Chen, and she could not help but reevaluate him. "You are quite capable, I see. What is your martial cultivation level?" she asked casually. This question made Yu Yunzi want to slap himself. Why had he gone showing off Fang Chen for no reason? If Gu Huaxi learned of Fang Chen's potential, wouldn't he have an extra competitor? He hurriedly cut in, "Mediocre. This boy is merely mediocre." Gu Huaxi wore a puzzled expression. She had only asked about Fang Chen offhand, so why was Yu Yunzi rushing to answer? Could it be he feared she would take a fancy to Fang Chen's interrogation talents and try to poach him? She laughed lightly. "Vice Pavilion Master Yu, if you fancy this boy, you may keep him for yourself. This old woman would never be so ill-mannered as to poach any promising disciple I set eyes on." In her heart, she silently added a few remarks. "I do not have such poor taste to accept any random disciple. He only possesses some trivial special interrogation skills, and I have never even heard of his name, which shows how unremarkable he is. I would have to be out of my mind to take a disciple like this." Hearing these words, Yu Yunzi breathed a sigh of relief. That made sense. They were both vice pavilion masters. After all, neither would stoop so low as to brazenly poach disciples. "My apologies for making a fool of myself before you, Vice Pavilion Master Gu. Fang Chen is the descendant of an old friend, so I wish to take extra care of him." Yu Yunzi laughed awkwardly. Gu Huaxi scoffed silently in her heart. "You've already reserved him as your personal disciple. No need to put on such a high-sounding front. We are both foxes from the same mountain. Don't try to spin ghost stories for me." "Now that matters here are concluded, let us hurry back to the Heavenly Secret Pavilion," Gu Huaxi said. Behind them, Kong Yuanba, sect master of the giant sect, flew into a rage. Judging from the two vice pavilion masters' reactions, the intelligence Fang Chen had extracted from the interrogation was staggeringly important. There was even a chance the pavilion master of Heavenly Secret Pavilion would bestow a heavy reward for it. How dare such a great benefit fall to a disciple of the Qin Sect, no less that same Fang Chen who had defeated his nephew and humiliated him publicly? "Vice Pavilion Master Gu, are we really going to let this matter rest just like that?" Kong Yuanba asked. Gu Huaxi glanced at him indifferently and said, "What else is there to do? You saw for yourself when I interrogated that demon earlier. Even if Jin Zhongming rushed back right now, he would likely be equally helpless. Fang Chen obtained this intelligence with his own ability. No one has any right to object." Now that she had spoken, no matter how unwilling Kong Yuanba was, there was nothing he could do. He cursed inwardly that this brat had somehow managed to cling to Yu Yunzi's coattails. Otherwise, he would have resorted to every trick in the book to seize this merit for his precious disciple Jin Zhongming. The group left the prison, only to run straight into a huffing, panting disciple who announced, "Sect Master, Zuwanchong has returned." Kong Yuanba's slightly irritated mood finally lightened a little, and he said, "It seems he has gotten what he wished for, and now has the chance to advance his ancient giant bloodline." Gu Huaxi's gaze shifted slightly, and she felt a twinge of regret in her heart. In fact, she had once intended to reserve Zuwanchong as her own disciple, but he bore the ancient giant bloodline, which had a rather unsavory reputation in history. It was this concern that made her hold back from showing any intention of taking him as a disciple. Now that she suddenly heard Zuwanchong could advance his ancient giant bloodline, she could not help but feel tempted. If he successfully advances his bloodline, his physical physique might well surpass that of Jin Zhongming. "Reporting to Master, senior brother, Zhu is injured," the reporting disciple answered carefully. Kong Yuanba's expression hardened instantly. "Injured? Take me to see him at once." As the second-ranked disciple of the giant sect, Zuwanchong was equally a beloved treasure of Kong Yuanba's. Gu Huaxi and Yu Yunzi exchanged a glance. This was an internal affair of the giant sect, and it would be inappropriate for them to interfere, so they were preparing to take their leave and depart. But Kong Yuanba said, "Vice Pavilion Masters, since you are already here, you might as well meet this disciple of mine. If you have any guidance to offer regarding his bloodline advancement, this sect master will be eternally grateful." Gu Huaxi had no guidance to offer regarding bloodline advancement, but she was highly interested in the post-advancement Zuwanchong. Yu Yunzi had also heard of the ancient giant bloodline, and since this was a rare visit, seeing it for himself would satisfy his curiosity on the matter. "This junior shall take his leave." Fang Chen bowed respectfully to take his leave, very sensibly. Though Zuwanchong's poison injury had nothing to do with him, from what he knew of the giant sect, they would most likely try to pin the blame on him. He could not afford to provoke them, but he could certainly avoid them. "You come along with me to take a look too. It will broaden your horizons." Yu Yunzi stopped him from leaving, saying, "The ancient giant bloodline has an extraordinary origin. If you miss this chance, you may never get another opportunity to see it." Fang Chen was torn between amusement and exasperation, thinking to himself, "Not only have I seen it, I have even fought against it." But he could not refuse Yu Yunzi's well-meaning insistence, and besides, with Yu Yunzi present, what could the giant sect possibly do to him? He thus agreed reluctantly. The group arrived at the sect master's hall, where Zuwanchong stood with his hands behind his back in front of the entrance. It had to be said that his ancient giant bloodline granted him an enviable regenerative ability. In a mere 5 days, his ghastly poison wounds had already healed 70 to 80%. The skin that had once been horribly burned now only bore faint scald marks. His pair of hands, which had been corroded by the eruption of 7-colored toxic miasma to the point where flesh was mangled and bones were visible, had also almost fully recovered, with only a few blood blisters remaining on some parts of the skin. "Master," upon seeing Kong Yuanba, Zuwanchong lowered his head guiltily. Kong Yuanba hurriedly stepped forward to examine him, and when he saw his body covered in wounds, his voice turned sharply frigid. "Who did this?" Judging by his demeanor, he fully intended to exact brutal revenge on whoever was responsible. Zuwanchong would have loved to find someone to vent his pent-up rage on, but this poison injury was no one's fault but his own. He had been caught off guard while excavating 7-colored profound ice. When he learned the injury was self-inflicted, the vicious expression on Kong Yuanba's face faded, but he still kept grumbling. "What is Lu's union even good for? If anything had happened to my disciple, I would have made him pay dearly for it." Fang Chen, standing at the back of the crowd, could not help rolling his eyes. "You, Zuwanchong, chose to go on that expedition yourself, so you ought to bear all risks on your own, yet you insist on shifting blame to others." The domineering style of the giant sect is shockingly consistent from top to bottom. "Where is the 7-colored mystic ice? Let this master, as well as the 2 deputy pavilion masters, take a look." Kong Yuanba put on an expectant expression. Even he had never laid eyes on 7-colored mystic ice before. Zuwanchong said with a guilty expression, "This disciple is incompetent. I failed to obtain the 7-colored mystic ice." Kong Yuanba wore a look of surprise. "That should be impossible. With your ancient giant bloodline, entering ordinary toxic miasma is as easy as reaching into your pocket to grab an item." "How could you fail?" Zuwanchong argued. "This disciple was careless. There is a fearsome 7-colored poison toad and a cunning fog demon inside the miasma." They placed liquefied 7-colored poison miasma beneath the 7-colored mystic ice. "I was struck by the poison carelessly when I tried to move the ice, and only managed to escape with my life thanks to my fast reaction when I fled the miasma." 7-colored poison toad. Kong Yuanba was slightly startled. How can such a ferocious beast exist there? Even ordinary elders would be in extreme danger if they encountered it. It is already impressive enough that you made it back alive. Recover from your injuries and make full preparations. This master will go there personally with you to retrieve the 7-colored mystic ice. Gu Huaxi and Yu Yunzi were also slightly shocked. The 7-colored mine is located deep in human territory, yet a 7-colored poison toad has appeared there. That ferocious beast is truly more than Zuwanchong can handle. He is extremely fortunate to have survived. However, Zuwanchong said with an unnatural expression, "There is no need to go any more. The 7-colored mystic ice has already been dug away by someone." That was the material Zuwanchong needed to upgrade his bloodline. Kong Yuanba said in shock, "Did you not say that there is a 7-colored poison toad inside, and the toxic miasma has erupted again? Who else could have entered?" Could it be Zai Liushu from the Joyous Sect? Within the territory of the 9 sects, there are only 2 people famous for their poison skills, so the guess came easily. Zuwanchong clenched his fists and said unwillingly, if it were Zai Liushu, I would accept it. He is the chief disciple of the Joyous Sect, so losing to him is no disgrace. The one who took the 7-colored mystic ice is a low-ranking disciple from the Azure Cloud Sect. Azure Cloud Sect again? Kong Yuanba laughed in rage. Are the Azure Cloud Sect disciples addicted to snatching merits from the giant sect disciples? Why are they everywhere? Who is he? To the shock of Kong Yuanba, Gu Huaxi and Yu Yunzi, Zuwanchong said through gritted teeth, who else could it be? It is that annoying Fang Chen. What Fang Chen? The 3 of them turned their heads in unison, looking at Fang Chen, who was standing behind them silent, appearing very obedient. Zuwanchong was also drawn by their abnormal reaction, and followed their gaze to look over, only to see Fang Chen half blocked by Yu Yunzi. He immediately flew into a rage and shouted, "How dare you come to my giant sect? This is outrageous. You robbed my 7-colored mystic ice, yet you did not hide far away, and even dared to come to the giant sect. This is blatant provocation right to my face." He rolled up his sleeves and was about to stride over. Yu Yunzi glanced at Kong Yuanba indifferently and said, "Sect Master Kong, what does your disciple intend to do?" Kong Yuanba was shocked in his heart. Fang Chen had already gained Yu Yunzi's backing, so he was no ordinary Azure Cloud Sect disciple that they could bully as they pleased. Kong Yuanba gave a soft rebuke. "Deputy Pavilion Master Yu is present, do not be impolite." Only then did Zuwanchong realize that this Heavenly Secrets Pavilion Pavilion Master was sheltering Fang Chen. He quickly stopped, but did not feel much fear, because the other Deputy Pavilion Master Gu was on the giant sect's side, and seemed to have considerable interest in his ancient giant bloodline. "Master, Fang Chen robbed my 7-colored mystic ice. I acted on impulse for a moment, but there is a justifiable reason. I beg Master not to blame me." Kong Yuanba nodded, then looked at Fang Chen and said indifferently, "Will you part with the 7-colored mystic ice? This stone is of great importance to my disciple." That was a huge chunk of 7-colored mystic ice. Fang Chen could not use all of it by himself. If he could exchange it for what he wanted, it was not impossible to consider. That depends on the sincerity of Sect Master Kong. Fang Chen expressed his willingness to trade. Kong Yuanba raised his eyebrows. "Are you misunderstanding? You robbed the 7-colored mystic ice from my disciple, so returning it to its rightful owner is your duty." "Do you actually expect this sect master to exchange items for it?" Fang Chen laughed in anger. Even with Yu Yunzi present, they dared to demand it so openly. If he were not here, they would probably have directly resorted to force to rob him. Yu Yunzi frowned. "Fang Chen, what is the truth about this 7-colored mystic ice?" Before the matter was clarified, he could not take sides arbitrarily. If it was really Fang Chen who robbed it, that would be quite bad. Fang Chen cupped his hands in salute and said, "I can only say that the word rob used by this master and disciple is wonderfully chosen, making people really think I snatched it from Zuwanchong. Hands, the truth is, Zuwanchong was poisoned and did not dare to enter the toxic miasma again, so I went deep into the miasma and retrieved the 7-colored mystic ice. If one blames their own incompetence on those who are capable and defines that as robbery, then I would say that all good things in the world belong to the giant sect the moment they lay eyes on them. If they cannot take them, no one else can either. Otherwise, it is considered robbery." After learning the general situation, Yu Yunzi had a hint of majesty on his face. "Sect Master Kong, you call this robbery?" Even Gu Huaxi found this hard to watch and said, "This is a matter of each relying on their own abilities. Fang Chen obtained it through his own skills, so it belongs to him. There is nothing to dispute." However, Zuwanchong said unconvinced, "But if I had not triggered all the mechanisms first, would Fang Chen have been able to get the 7-colored mystic ice so easily? He would have died inside long ago. He always believed that Fang Chen had taken a huge advantage of him." Fang Chen's expression remained unchanging as he spoke. "Surely you do not think the toxic miasma holds only hidden traps as dangers? I fought that 7-colored venom toad for so long, yet you did not utter a single word of that. In comparison, what peril do traps even pose? Even with all my secret techniques, I was nearly devoured by the 7-colored venom toad." "What?" Gu Huaxi's face was etched with shock. "You fought the 7-colored venom toad?" Even Yu Yunzi wore a hint of disbelief. A fully mature 7-colored venom toad is at the 4th layer of the golden core realm. Coupled with its devastatingly potent venom, even a human martial artist at the 5th layer of the golden core realm may not be its match. How could you possibly have fought it and survived? Kong Yuanba snorted contemptuously through his nostrils. Who can say for certain what transpired within the 7-colored toxic miasma? You could have staged the entire farce, and no one would be able to distinguish truth from falsehood. Gu Huaxi and Yu Yunzi exchanged a glance. It was not that they suspected Fang Chen of lying, but the matter sounded truly unfathomable. Even the few mythic heavenly prides of the Heavenly Secrets Pavilion may not be able to clash head-on with the 7-colored venom toad, let alone a mere disciple of the Qin Sect. Fang Chen wore an expression of blatant indifference, as if to say believe it or not, as he spoke coolly. In any case, the 7-colored profound ice is in my possession. If your giant sect wants it, splitting half with you is not out of the question. However, I want the Void Lotus in Sect Master Kong's possession. Kong Wangchuan rejected the offer flatly. That is impossible. The most I will offer you is 100,000 spirit crystals. Forget about the Void Lotus. This treasure is what I use to temper my physical frame. It is the only one of its kind in the entire 9 sects lands. How could I ever give it to you? Fang Chen was not surprised by this response in the slightest. If he could obtain the Void Lotus that easily, he would instead suspect that Kong Yuanba had tampered with the treasure. I have no shortage of spirit crystals. This transaction ends here. Fang Chen's stance was equally decisive. Aside from Kong Yuanba, there was actually another location where the Void Lotus might exist, the treasure vault of the Heavenly Secrets Pavilion. Given the vast hoard the Heavenly Secrets Pavilion has amassed over the ages, it holds every treasure the 9 sects possess, and even countless treasures the 9 sects have never heard of. The 1-month deadline has now arrived, and the time to exchange for resources from the treasure vault is imminent. He would check if the Void Lotus was among the offerings then. Zuwanchong panicked instantly, speaking urgently. No, I do not want all your 7-colored profound ice, but you must leave half for me. This treasure is of critical importance to my bloodline. Advancement. Fang Chen cast him a cold glance and said, What? You plan to rob me by force now that I refuse to sell? Kong Yuanba narrowed his eyes dangerously. Young man, grant this sect master some face. 100,000 spirit crystals is already an immensely generous sum. You ought to be satisfied with this offer. Fang Chen waved his hand dismissively, speaking without the slightest courtesy. My apologies, but Sect Master Kong's face holds no weight with me, nor do I care for your favor. Go seek 7-colored profound ice elsewhere. They were the ones begging him for a favor, yet they put on the arrogant air of bestowing alms. Who would care for such a worthless, so-called face? Kong Yuanba stared coldly at Fang Chen. No one had dared to speak to him in such a manner for countless years. The last time was back when he was still a lowly disciple, but with Yu Yunzi backing Fang Chen, he could only bury this grudge deep in his heart for now. However, while he could not make a move openly, his disciple Zuwanchong had no such restrictions. Insolent, how dare you show disrespect to my master? Zuwanchong roared, veins bulging fiercely on his neck, his entire body's muscles swelling and grinding against each other, emitting eerie creaking friction sounds. Yu Yunzi was just about to scold him into retreat. After all, this was a renowned veteran disciple of the giant sect, whose strength ranked among the absolute peak of the 9 sects. How could Fang Chen possibly stand against him? Yet a single sentence from Fang Chen shook him to his core. You still wish to fight me? Was the humiliation you suffered last time not enough? Fang Chen said icily. He had not wanted to spark a conflict with the giant sect, but they were being so overbearing, pressing him step by step with their arrogance. Why should he continue to hold back his politeness? These words stunned even Gu Huaxi for a moment, let alone Yu Yunzi. Kong Yuanba found this even more impossible to believe. Wanzhong, you fought him before, and you lost. Zuwanchong was one of the most famed heavenly prides of the 9 sects. The number of cultivators who could surpass him could be counted on one hand. Kong Yuanba could accept him losing to someone, but losing to Fang Chen, that was utterly unthinkable for him. Who lost? You only took a petty advantage, because I let my guard down. Zuwanchong seemed to have been thoroughly provoked. He glared at Fang Chen with shame and rage burning in his eyes. If you have the guts, fight me fairly once, and we shall see who is the hero and who is the sniveling coward. Fang Chen's expression remained perfectly calm, completely unaffected by the provocation, as he said lightly, Fighting you will neither prove who has courage, nor distinguish between hero and coward. It will only waste spiritual power for nothing. If you want to reclaim your honor, you had better show some sincerity first. As if a few empty words could force him to fight. What a ridiculous notion. If they fought, Fang Chen would be injured if he lost, and gain no benefit whatsoever if he won. So there was simply no point in the duel. Zuwanchong, on the other hand, was desperate to win against Fang Chen once to salvage his tattered reputation. Zuwanchong was seething with rage. If he was not wary of Yu Yunzi, he would have attacked long ago regardless of whether Fang Chen agreed or not. He wanted a bargaining chip. How brazen. Suddenly, a scheming light flashed in Zuwanchong's eyes. He sneered and said, "You want a bargaining chip? Fine. If you win, I will tell you the whereabouts of your Qin Sect disciples, Wang Chengjian and Liu Qingxian. Their current situation is dire. They are in urgent need of rescue." Fang Chen's heart jolted. He had rushed to the giant sect precisely to confirm if Liu Qingxian was safe. Unfortunately, he had not run into any acquaintances yet, so he had no one to inquire about their whereabouts from. Of course, it was also possible that Zuwanchong knew nothing at all, and was only trying to provoke him into fighting. "Can you guarantee that what you are saying is the truth?" Fang Chen asked. Zuwanchong let out a low chuckle, fished inside his sleeve, and produced a jade vial holding a single jade, green medicinal pill, clearly a rejuvenation elixir. "I won this from Liu Qingxian. Oh, and that Gale pearl hanging around her neck. I won that too, and gifted it to my junior brother's son. What do you think? Do I know where she is?" Fang Chen fixed him with a frigid stare, his previously serene gaze growing deep and icy, wispy frost spilling from the depths of his eyes. "When you stole her belongings, did you injure her?" Fang Chen questioned coldly, his voice so unnervingly calm it made one's very soul shudder. A flicker of unnaturalness flashed across Zuwanchong's features. He darted a covert glance at Yu Yunzi and Gu Huaxi before declaring loudly, "You misheard me. I said I won them fairly." Fang Chen shook his head. "I cannot say for certain if she would wager the rejuvenation elixir against you, but that Gale pearl you speak of, I gave it to her. She would never bet it away." Yu Yunzi frowned. How could such a travesty come to pass? Disciples from the 9 sects had gathered at Giant Sect both to fend off the demonic beast tied and indirectly protect Giant Sect, which stood at the very front line. Instead of offering their full support, Giant Sect was robbing the belongings of disciples from the 9 sects. Gu Huaxi had long heard whispers of this behavior, but had never been certain of its veracity. Learning that they had even dared steal from the top female genius of Qin Sect, she could not help but furrow her brows. Noticing the shift in the 2 Vice Pavilion Masters' expressions, Zuwanchong inwardly cursed Fang Chen for sticking his nose where it did not belong, and roared impatiently, "Are you going to gamble or not? If you win, I will tell you Liu Qingxian's whereabouts." Fang Chen shook his head. "Gamble? There is no need for that." The moment his words fell, his tone turned abruptly frigid, sharp killing intent surging in his eyes. "Right now, I only demand you pay your blood debt with blood." He could imagine how desperately Liu Qingxian had fought to retrieve the Gale Pearl, and how brutally Zuwanchong had harmed her when she was no match for his strength. At the thought, the rage in his heart erupted like a slumbering volcano. With a sharp whoosh, Fang Chen activated his movement technique. The two were only 5 or 6 zhang apart, so he crossed the distance in an instant. His blood roiled within him like boiling water, and he threw both fists crashing towards Zuwanchong's chest. I was already expecting this cheap trick. Zuwanchong gnashed his teeth and sneered, a thunderous rumble emanating from his body. Countless visible purple veins coiled across his skin like giant centipedes, his already incredibly powerful physique rising to an even greater height of strength in that moment, exuding the overwhelming pressure of a primordial giant. "Let me show you my true physical prowess," Zuwanchong roared. Being sent stumbling backwards by Fang Chen's casual strike had been a humiliating stain on his pride. As someone bearing the bloodline of the primordial giant, losing to an ordinary cultivator in terms of physical strength was an unforgivable sin. Now he would finally wipe away that shame. From the very start, he had activated his primordial giant bloodline, intending to unleash his strongest blow immediately. Zuwanchong threw both fists forward, the terrifying force so great it shook the very air, causing faint spatial distortions to appear around his fists. This punch made Yu Yunzi's face change drastically, and he raised his hand to intervene. With the primordial giant bloodline boosting him, his physique has reached the 3rd layer of Golden Core Realm, Yu Yunzi exclaimed in a low voice. But it was already too late to stop them now. Their fists had already crashed together in the span of a single spark. Crack, a deafening boom like a thunderclap exploded without warning. The unprepared Kong Yuanba and the 2 Vice Pavilion Masters were so shaken that their ears rang incessantly. Right after that came the ferocious shockwave from the colliding fists, which sliced through the ground beneath their feet like a sharp blade, leaving a crack as thick as a man's arm that spread over 10 zhang to either side. This sight made Kong Yuanba's pupils shrink violently. Fang Chen could actually go toe-to-toe with his disciple in terms of physical strength. When he saw Fang Chen start the fight with physical attacks, he had predicted Fang Chen would end up with all his bones shattered or even die on the spot. But the result was beyond all expectations. The two were evenly matched. Gu Huexi also gaped in shock. What? He is just a Qin Sect disciple. How can he match Zuwanchong in physique? Vice Pavilion Master Yu, what is the matter with this descendant of your old acquaintance? Yu Yunzi could not answer her right now, for he was equally stunned. He had thought he already knew just how extraordinary Fang Chen's talent was, but only now did he realize that Fang Chen's attainments in the body refinement path were this astonishing. But this was only the beginning. Zuwanchong's face stiffened. He had been sure he would send Fang Chen flying coughing up blood, but instead they were locked in a stalemate. Where did you learn your body refinement techniques? How can you possibly be as strong as me? He had activated his primordial giant bloodline and unleashed his strongest blow, only to be fought to a draw by some unknown nobody. He could not accept this. Kong Yuanba could not accept this either, and he snapped, Zuwanchong, if you lose to a Qin Sect disciple, don't ever call me your master again. I cannot afford to lose that much face. Even if Fang Chen had defeated Zuwanchong with a spell, it would have been less humiliating. But he had matched and even surpassed Giant Sect's top disciple in the very field Giant Sect prided itself on the most. That was a resounding slap to their faces. How would Giant Sect ever have the face to call itself a body refinement sect after this? Zuwanchong's breath caught. He gritted his teeth and roared, "Get out of my way." He pushed off with both feet, trying to ram Fang Chen away by force. Fang Chen did not move an inch, his face as cold as ice. You have exhausted your full strength. Now it is my turn. The gloomy-faced Kong Yuanba froze. What did that mean? Fang Chen had not even used his full strength yet. Impossible. For a disciple from an outside sect to have cultivated his physique to this level was already a miracle. There was no way he was holding back. Yu Yunzi, who had been about to step in to stop the fight, paused, a flicker of excitement in his eyes as he watched the battle with great anticipation. Gu Huexi also began to look Fang Chen over anew, her expression full of intense curiosity. Zuwanchong was stunned for a moment, then a sense of imminent danger washed over him. He drew back his fists, trying to put distance between himself and Fang Chen, but it was already too late. The *9 stances of Heaven Conquest *, paired with his body refinement techniques, allowed him to bring the full power of his physique to bear. Mountain Shatter, Cloud Rend, Thunderclap, Wind Piercer. For the first few moves, Zuwanchong could still rely on his tough physique to take the hits and even strike back. But as the sequence progressed, the power of the stances grew exponentially. His fists were beaten so badly they ached fiercely, and the poison wounds that had just healed split open once more, blood spraying everywhere. Zuwanchong was gradually left with only the strength to parry, his defenses growing increasingly untenable until Fang Chen unleashed his ultimate move, Heaven Splitter. The overwhelming fist might, far greater than the combined power of the previous 8 strikes, crashed onto Zuwanchong's arms, raised to shield his chest. Crack, the teeth-aching sound of shattering bone rang out sharply. The terrifying fist force did not diminish in the slightest, traveling down his broken arms to slam violently into his chest. Crunch, crunch, multiple bones in his ribcage snapped as well, caving inward beneath the impact. Unable to withstand the immense force, Zuwanchong felt a tightness in his chest and spewed a great mouthful of blood. The blood gushed out in a ragged spray, and his 3 metered. All frames staggered before crashing heavily to the ground. The delayed wave of agony slowly began to spread through his body. Only then did Zuwanchong register the soul-rending pain, and a shrill, agonized howl tore from his throat. Dust billowed wildly across the battlefield, mirroring the roiling, thunderous waves of shock in the hearts of all onlookers. The second greatest prodigy of the Giant Sect, bearer of the ancient giant bloodline, had been utterly defeated. Defeated specifically in the physical cultivation path he was renowned for. No one would have dared believe this was real, had they not witnessed it with their own eyes. Zuwanchong's face flushed crimson with agony, but the far greater pain was to his pride. He gritted his teeth, staring at Fang Chen with venomous hatred as he roared, "Wait for me, you just wait. I will kill you, I swear I will kill you, and your friends and family, your fellow sect disciples, I will spare none of them. Not a single one." But before his words even finished echoing in the air, a frigid sword Kai sliced down onto his arm in an instant. Blood sprayed wildly, and his massive arm was severed, flying into the air. Zuwanchong froze for a moment, then turned his head to look, only to discover that half of his right arm was gone. Bone, piercing agony hit him a split second later, tearing a wretched scream from his lips. "Ah, my arm." Fang Chen gripped the lament frost sword, his eyes as cold as frost. "Who told you our battle was over? I said you would pay for your crimes in blood." Starfall of heaven and earth, he slashed out another terrifying wave of sword Kai, giving Zuwanchong no time to react at all. Kong Yuanba was consumed with fury. That Fang Chen had defeated his disciple in physical cultivation was already a humiliating blow to his reputation as sect master, but now the boy dared to commit violence right before his eyes. Intending to harm his beloved disciple, did Fang Chen have any respect for him, the master of the giant sect at all? "You seek death," Kong Yuanba roared, his thunderous voice rippling with such immense power that it shattered the sword Kai heading for Zuwanchong. In the next instant, his figure blurred as he struck out toward Fang Chen. Fang Chen did not even spare him a glance. He rubbed his palms together, and the lament frost sword in his grasp spun rapidly. Go, as the single word left his lips, the sword transformed into a world, shaking rainbow, piercing through the air toward him. Sword control technique. Yu Yunzi and Gu Hyuxi cried out in utter shock. Is this not the exclusive secret technique of Zhu Qingyong from Myriad Sword Sect? Kong Yuanba was also taken aback and scrambled to dodge out of the way. Seizing this opportunity, Fang Chen struck decisively, overbearing dragon regrets. The final move of the Heavenly Cripple Finger secret technique, colorful specks of light converged into an incomparably powerful beam of light, shooting instantly towards Zuwanchong's neck. Zuwanchong's eyelids trembled with terror. He rolled frantically, his neck narrowly avoiding the devastating finger attack by a hair's breadth, but his shoulder was grazed by the beam, tearing off a large chunk of flesh and skin. Hiss! Zuwanchong sucked in a sharp breath from the pain, scrambling to his feet and running frantically toward his master. He had never imagined that one day, when facing a cultivator of the same generation, he would be reduced to begging his master for help in such a humiliating, disheveled state. Kong Yuanba was seething with rage. In the split second he had been distracted dodging the sword control technique, Fang Chen had injured his disciple yet again. This was unforgivable. Kong Yuanba roared in fury, leaping over to shield Zuwanchong behind his back. Murderous intent blazed in his eyes. If not for his fear of Yu Yunzi, he would have crushed Fang Chen to death 1,000 times over. Zuwanchong's racing heart finally settled. With his master here, he was safe. Feeling the throbbing pain all over his body, he peeked half his head out from behind his master, casting a venomous glare at Fang Chen. But to his cold dread, Fang Chen showed no intention of stopping his assault whatsoever. Bang! Fang Chen snatched the wooden case off his back, slamming it heavily into the ground. The coldness on his face only intensified. You think just because your master protects you, I can't do anything to you. Today, no one in this world can save you. Kong Yuanba let out a cold, furious laugh. He had personally stepped forward to shield Zuwanchong, yet Fang Chen still dared to press his attack. How dare you? Kong Yuanba thundered. I would like to see just what you think you can do to my disciple. Clang, spurning all idle chatter, Fang Chen snapped open the wooden casket, snatched the ivory, white gyukin, pressed his 5 fingers to the strings, and began playing at once. Clang, piercing notes transformed into terrifying sound waves as sharp as blades and swords, sweeping violently out in all directions from Fang Chen as their core. The ground was sliced open into countless cracks oozing acrid smoke, and all surrounding flower beds and trees were shattered to smithereens. Even Yu Yunzi and Gu Hyuxi's expressions shifted drastically. They mobilized their spiritual power to shield their bodies, shock plain on their faces as they exclaimed, This is the cultivation method of the Heavenly Sound Sect, but even the Heavenly Sound Sect does not possess such a formidable musical score. Kong Yuanba's countenance changed abruptly. He felt as if countless blades were hacking at his skin, sending searing, burning pain across his body, yet the attacks could not harm his tempered physical constitution. While he was unharmed, Zuwanchong could not withstand such force. PFFT, in mere moments, the shockwaves split Zuwanchong's skin and flesh open, sending blood spraying everywhere. In the blink of an eye, he bore over a dozen fresh wounds. Zuwanchong let out a scream of agony. Kong Yuanba was horrified and rushed to shield his disciple, but these sound waves seeped through every crack. How could he possibly fend them off entirely? Watching his disciple being wounded repeatedly right before his eyes, while he as a master was powerless to protect him, rage instantly surged in his chest. His eyes bulged as he glowered at Fang Chen and roared, You are courting death. Whoosh! He took a single step forward, moving as fast as a thunderbolt. His imposing, massive frame, like a towering mountain, slammed violently towards Fang Chen. Fang Chen, however, swiftly picked up the gyukin, activated his movement technique, and continued unleashing streams of musical attacks. With a loud bang, almost the instant Fang Chen left his spot, Kong Yuanba stomped down on the very place he had stood, shattering the ground into fissures. When he turned his head, he saw Fang Chen darting towards Zuwanchong at a speed no less than his own, filling Kong Yuanba with equal parts fury and shock as he bellowed, "Stop right there!" Fang Chen paid him no heed, fixing a cold gaze on the terror-stricken Zuwanchong. He charged forward rapidly to strike. Zuwanchong's scalp tingled with fear. He hurriedly spat out a jade pendant and crushed it between his teeth. Instantly, an earthy yellow halo etched with turtle shell patterns wrapped around his body to shield him. As a physical cultivation practitioner, using a spell cultivator's protective jade pendant was somewhat humiliating, but he cared nothing for that when his life was on the line. With the halo shielding him, Zuwanchong felt far safer. This was a 5th-layer Golden Core Realm protective magical artifact. No matter how powerful Fang Chen was, he could never break through it. Once his master returned, Fang Chen would be doomed. But to his shock, Fang Chen tossed the Gyukin aside, his momentum increasing rather than decreasing. Lightning coiled around his legs as he stomped hard on the light barrier. Rumble, 2 thunder dragons surged down, instantly piercing through the light shield Zuwanchong had thought impenetrable. What? Bang! Before Zuwanchong could do more than cry out in shock, Fang Chen's feet slammed hard into his chest, sending him crashing heavily to the ground. Before he could even lift his head, a foot stamped down violently on his skull, pressing his face tight against the cold earth. What made his blood run even colder was that Fang Chen raised his hand in a summons, and the morning frost sword that had been embedded in the palace wall flew back instantly into his palm. The cold edge of the blade was then pressed against Zuwanchong's thick neck. "I told you, no one can protect you today," Fang Chen said coldly. This scene left Yu Yunzi and Gu Huaxi completely stunned. Kong Yuanba had personally attacked, yet he could not even protect his own disciple. Was this something a mere disciple, a new entry disciple, could possibly achieve? Zuwanchong's entire body shook violently, uncontrollable terror spreading wildly through his heart. Even when he fought a life and death battle against senior brother Jin Zhongming, he had never felt such imminent danger. But facing Fang Chen, he was trapped in a desperate situation with no way to heaven and no path to earth. Even with his master right in front of him, no one could save him. Before Fang Chen, he was no better than an insect, crushed at will with no power to fight back. "Now, do you still want to kill my family and friends, and my fellow sect members?" Fang Chen pressed down hard on the blade, cutting into Zuwanchong's neck, and blood immediately oozed out. Zuwanchong was terrified, screaming at the top of his lungs, "No, no, no, I was only joking just now. Junior brother Fang, please spare me, spare my life." Even his master could not protect him right in front of his eyes. How dared he provoke this ferocious fiend Fang Chen any further? If he truly angered Fang Chen, he would not merely have a sword pressed to his neck, as he did now. His head would be separated from his body. Bullying the weak and fearing the strong had always been the tradition of the giant sect, and Zuwanchong was no exception. Fang Chen let out a heavy snort. "Where is Liu Qingxian?" Zuwanchong answered hastily. She, Wang Chengjian, and several other outer sect disciples went to carry out a patrol mission at Hu Lake 5 days ago, but none of them have returned. You can go to Hu Lake to look for them." Hu Lake? Fang Chen's face turned grave. Could they have run into a powerful water demonic beast? He recalled the peril of encountering the red-scaled fiend flood dragon that day. Even the great elder of the Heavenly Sound Sect had lost an arm by accident. If Liu Qingxian encountered an extremely powerful water demonic beast, she would indeed be in great danger. Seeing that the situation had calmed down, Yu Yunzi reminded, "Fang Chen, let him go. I have heard of the Hu Lake incident, and I did not know your friend was among the missing disciples. Go quickly to the mission hall and accept a first-tier mission whose purpose is to investigate and rescue them. The Heavenly Secrets Pavilion also attaches great importance to this matter, for all the disciples who took this mission are top elites of the 9 sects. If something happens to them, it will be a tremendous loss for the 9 sects." Fang Chen did not dare delay and was about to depart immediately. "Hold it," Kong Yuanba shouted coldly, murderous intent blazing in his eyes. His entire body emanated a suffocating aura, and his voice was icy cold. "You assaulted and almost killed my disciple right before my eyes, and you think you can just leave like that? It has always been the giant sect that bullies others. When have we ever been humiliated like this?" Fang Chen glanced at him indifferently. "What do you want?" He shook his sleeve imperceptibly, releasing the invisible Tiantian silk threads. Kong Yuanba said grimly, "Is my meaning not clear enough? You are not leaving here alive." At this moment, he no longer hid his skaish, uttering murderous intent, roaring, "Borrowing your own words from earlier today, no one can protect you." Hearing this, Yu Yunzi's expression turned frosty. "Kong Yuanba, what is the meaning of this?" Kong Yuanba had thrown all caution to the wind, shouting angrily, "Deputy Pavilion Head, I have shown you enough respect today. If not for your face, he would have died 100 times over already. But he relies on your protection to run wild and wantonly injure my disciple. Do not blame this sect leader for being ruthless. I will use his blood to warn all ungrateful outer sect personnel of their place." Yu Yunzi laughed, his sleeves fluttering violently without any wind. A terrifying aura swept out, his usual gentle demeanor replaced by incomparable majesty. "It seems that I have lived in seclusion for too long, so much so that people have forgotten how I earned my position as deputy pavilion head." Though he was smiling, he emanated a horrific pressure, as if the sky were collapsing and the earth were splitting apart. Even Kong Yuanba could not help swallowing nervously. The vast Heavenly Secrets Pavilion only had 4 deputy pavilion heads, each of whom not only possessed absolute strength capable of subduing the entire land of the 9 sects, but also fearsome, ruthless methods that commanded reverence. Yu Yunzi might dress in a Taoist robe and appear detached from worldly affairs, but when he fought against extraterritorial powerful enemies in the past, he cut a path through mountains of corpses and seas of blood, slaughtering thousands of formidable foes. The blood that stained his hands was enough to flood half of the giant sect. He was a true living Asura of the current age. Kong Yuanba's scalp tingled slightly, and he realized he had acted somewhat impulsively. But when he thought of Fang Chen's terrifying strength, he could already see the future of the Azure Cloud Sect. If this boy was given the chance to grow, he would definitely take control of the Azure Cloud Sect one day, and under his leadership, the Azure Cloud Sect would become the leader of the 9 sects, leaving the giant sect with no chance to rise ever again. Failing to strangle such a heaven's pride in the cradle would be a dereliction of duty to the giant sect. So, steadying his mind, his murderous intent rose once more. He shouted, "Deputy Pavilion Head Gu, please hold off Deputy Pavilion Head Yu for a moment. Once this is done, the giant sect will offer you our most sincere gratitude." He was naturally far from being a match for Yu Yunzi, but Gu Huexi was, and she was on the giant sect's side. If she could just hold Yu Yunzi back for a short while, he could kill Fang Chen and eliminate this future trouble forever. As for Yu Yunzi taking revenge afterwards, Fang Chen would already be dead. Would Yu Yunzi really kill a respected sect leader just for a mere junior disciple? At worst, he would injure him to vent his anger. Trading his own injuries for the life of this scourge Fang Chen was a more than worthwhile deal, no matter how he looked at it. With those words, he charged toward Fang Chen, brimming with bone-chilling killing intent. "Little bastard, your time has come." Yet he had barely taken half a step, when a blurry afterimage came crashing straight for him with terrifying force, making Kong Yuanba's face drain of color. Wasn't Gu Huexi supposed to stop Yu Yunzi? How had he still managed to strike? In that critical moment, he channeled every ounce of his physical strength in a desperate attempt to block the blow. But the strike of a vice pavilion master was unfathomably fearsome. Kong Yuanba immediately felt as if his entire body was about to shatter to pieces. His internal organs jolted violently out of place. Had this blow landed on a spellcasting martial artist of the same realm, they would have perished on the spot. Yu Yunzi is actually going for the kill. He spat out a mouthful of blood involuntarily, flying backward with brutal force and smashing a massive hole straight through the wall of the sect master's main hall. He struggled to his feet, his tone laced with resentment. "Vice Pavilion Master Gu, why didn't you stop?" His words died in his throat mid-sentence. Yu Yunzi was still standing where he had been, not having moved an inch. It was Gu Huexi, her hand wrapped around her coiled dragon staff, staring at him with an ice-cold gaze. Without a shadow of a doubt, the one who had struck just now was not Yu Yunzi, but Gu Huexi herself. "Vice Pavilion Master Gu Yu." Kong Yuanba's face was filled with stunned disbelief. Gu Huexi shared a life and death bond with one of the giant sect's supreme elders and had already chosen Jin Zhongming as her personal disciple, so her ties to the giant sect were effectively unbreakable. What was happening right now? Not only had she not stopped Yu Yunzi, she had actually attacked him, Kong Yuanba. Gu Huexi slammed her coiled dragon staff heavily against the ground, her face cold as frost. "You are far too reckless and audacious." A dignified sect master, attempting to assassinate a junior and asking this old woman to aid your villainy. "What do you take me for?" Her words left Kong Yuanba speechless, with no way to retort. What left him even more dumbfounded was that after finishing her scolding, Gu Huexi turned to look at Fang Chen, her angry expression vanishing instantly to be replaced by a gentle, grandmotherly look. "Do not fear, little one. As long as this old woman is here today, no one will so much as lay a finger on you." Fang Chen was secretly confused. Wasn't this Gu Huexi aligned with the giant sect? Why would she help him? But it was certainly not a bad turn of events. He quietly put away his heavenly mountain silk thread, then cupped his fists in a respectful salute. Many thanks to the senior for saving me from trouble. Gu Huaxi looked him over with a fond expression, saying, "You are being far too formal, child. I share a deep bond with your master, Liu Wenchen. His disciple is naturally my disciple as well. How could I stand by and watch you get hurt?" Standing off to the side, Yu Yunzi found the conversation increasingly off. He could overlook her initial warm concern. At worst, she had stolen the words he had planned to say. But what was the meaning of her claiming such a close connection now? He hurried over at once, saying, "Vice Pavilion Master Gu, Fang Chen is the descendant of an old friend of mine. I will naturally take good care of him, so you need not trouble yourself over this matter." This was clearly a declaration of ownership. Gu Huaxi scoffed. "Descendant of an old friend, so what? I share a bond with his master, no less." Yu Yunzi did not bother to expose her lies. What bullshit bond did she have with Liu Wenchen? At most they had met once or twice and exchanged a few words, nothing more. He put on a stern expression. "Vice Pavilion Master Gu, you yourself said just now that you would not be so ill-mannered as to snatch away any promising disciple you set your eyes on." Gu Huax's face froze for a moment, but she quickly retorted, "And you lied to me saying his strength was mediocre. Do you dare repeat those words now?" Yu Yunzi felt a twinge of guilt. As the saying goes, gold will always shine no matter where it is placed. It cannot be hidden no matter how hard one tries. He couldn't help but glare angrily at Kong Yuanba. Without another word, he flashed forward in a single step. Kong Yuanba's pupils shrank to pinpricks, and he cried out in terror, "What are you doing?" Crack. Yu Yunzi lashed his horsetail whisk across Kong Yuanba's face, flaying his skin open on the spot. "This is all your fault," he fumed. Fang Chen would never have had to reveal his strength if Kong Yuanba and his disciple had not pushed him so far. It was because of this that Gu Huaxi had noticed Fang Chen's stunning talent, making his plan to quietly recruit Fang Chen to his side completely impossible. Gu Huaxi was even willing to turn on the giant sect entirely to fight for Fang Chen, so there was no way she would give him up easily. Kong Yuanba ground his teeth in agony. Beaten by 2 vice pavilion masters in a single day, he was effectively the #1 person among the 9 sects in that regard. He was in searing pain and drowning in humiliation. He glowered secretly at Fang Chen, his hatred for the boy seeping into his very bones. A flicker of killing intent danced continuously in his eyes. Yu Yunzi had forged his way through countless battlefields. How could he not sense that killing intent? His robes billowed without wind, his gaze was frigid with cold, and his tone turned bone-chilling. "Kong Yuanba, do you think that if you kill Fang Chen, the worst I will do is give you a beating?" His innermost thoughts exposed, Kong Yuanba's heart skipped a beat, and he stammered hurriedly, "No, I don't." Yu Yunzi grabbed him by the throat and lifted him clean off the ground. "This vice pavilion master never cares about status when he kills. I have slain enemies, I have slain supreme elders of the 9 sects, but I have never yet slain a sect master of the 9 sects. You are more than welcome to try and provoke me." Kong Yuanba's heart trembled violently. He finally realized he had drastically underestimated how much Fang Chen mattered to Yu Yunzi. What made his blood run even colder was Gu Huaxi speaking up in a flat, cold tone. "Kong Yuanba, you would do best not to do anything foolish. If you truly cause Fang Chen's death, I will grant you a quick death with an intact corpse out of consideration for my ties to your giant sect." Like Yu Yunzi, she had seen Fang Chen's boundless potential. If brought back to the Heavenly Secrets Pavilion to be trained, his achievements would be no less than those of the pavilion's few mythical heavenly prides. It would be an unspeakable tragedy if such a rare talent perished at the hands of a petty villain like Kong Yuanba. Seeing even Gu Huaxi issue an ultimatum, Kong Yuanba's last sliver of hope was completely snuffed out. He said this junior would not dare. Fang Chen cast a grateful glance at both vice pavilion masters. With them protecting him, Kong Yuanba indeed would not dare to attack him directly, but he could have others do the deed. "What if I die in an accident?" Fang Chen asked. Yu Yunzi and Gu Huaxi immediately understood Fang Chen's concern.